We are tonight's entertainment.
You will never find the more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Excellent!
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the Movie Mania podcast, where we talk about films, past, present and future. I am Bandit from Bandit Incorporated, and joining me is the man, the myth, the legend. He's a podcaster, well, so was I. Trilbee slash Mr. TARDIS.
It brings a tear to the eye.
It does, doesn't it?
It does. Oh,
it's been so long. It feels like it's been forever since we've all seen Civil War at different times, and it's been weeks and weeks, and we're finally ready to actually talk about it now. How long has it been? Four weeks or something? Yeah,
since Trey saw it, and then I saw it a week and a half ago. And then, very much like the actual Avengers Civil War, this has been building up for a very, very long time, hasn't it?
That's right. And without giving any spoilers, because we'll cover both spoiler and non-spoiler stuff when we get to it, but I still side with Tony Stark.
Yeah, Team Tony.
Still Team Stark.
Yeah.
So how have you been, Trilbee?
I've been good, yeah. Long week work-wise, but next week should be fun because I'm working entirely nights, which works out because I might be able to just wake up in the middle of the day, go to the cinema, and then come back because businesses will actually be open, which should be a lot of fun. But yeah, I've been doing well. I've been debating whether or not to actually see Civil War again, as opposed to actually watching new releases, which is just an indicator of how good it is compared to the rest of the competition out at the moment. But how are you doing?
I saw it again last night.
I'm so jealous. I want to see it 6 more times today.
And yeah, it's I mean, I think it's been 3 weeks since it came out in Australia, and it was still the theater was still pretty much packed.
Yeah,
so people are still seeing it.
The numbers are just coming in for its domestic opening weekend, and it's around $181 million, which is a good opening weekend because Disney have got all of those critics to pay off, apparently.
Yeah, so, we're still waiting for our check in the mail.
Oh, yours didn't arrive?
Oh, damn, you got yours already?
Yeah, and I got my special check for praising the Jungle Book. Yeah, you should have loved it more, Bandit. Get that sweet Disney dollar.
Yeah, they'll probably pay you in cash. It'll be like Mickey Mouse money or something.
Yeah, it's like Monopoly money, but even more worthless.
Or Star Wars credits or something,
Galactic credits. Oh, gosh.
Well, I should, before we jump into the movie news and everything, got a couple things to say. First of all, we are going to be joined later in the podcast by a good friend of mine, massive YouTuber. He's doing the equivalent of sort of a podcast road trip at the moment. Couch Tomato. He's not here right now. He's going to call sometime probably during the news, and then we'll patch him in, but he's going to join us for our Civil War chat. Couch Tomato. And really look forward to have him on. Trey can't be here right now because he's doing the Mother's Day thing. And
yeah, that was confusing because I saw a lot of Facebook posts saying Mother's Day, love Mother's Day, favourite mothers, and I was thinking, God, what have I missed? What? I was not prepared. UK Mother's Day isn't for another 5-6 weeks. Oh no, I think it's already come and gone. I don't know where Mother's Day is. Either way, it's confusing.
Yeah, it is confusing. Ours was a couple of days ago.
Yeah, it's that
Me and my
heart
sister just took my mum out to an Indian restaurant.
Oh, lovely.
Well, also, I want to say to everyone, so, yep, we're looking forward to when Couch Tomato calls. I just sent him another email letting him know my Skype name so he can call. Also, I just want to let all of our viewers know, just before we jump into the actual sort of content of the podcast, a couple of you guys have mentioned you're having some technical difficulties with the podcast. I just want to let you know that they should have been sorted out now. Some of you guys that download it from SoundCloud were having issues. I think you, Trilbee, with the embed code that you were trying to put on your website, that was having issues as well.
It was just the one, but yeah, no idea what happened there.
Yeah, likewise, still no idea. But it seemed to just resolve itself. So I think SoundCloud was going through some maintenance or whatever it was. Also, last week's podcast had technical issues trying to upload it. I had to upload it over and over and over. And I finally figured out what was wrong with it and managed to get it working. But It took like half the day. So just letting all you guys know, all the technical issues should be dealt with and everything should be fine. But if you ever do have trouble getting it through iTunes or SoundCloud, you can always pick it up on my YouTube channel. So there's always multiple places you can get it from. So
and make sure you follow the Facebook pages and search in the Twitter handles so you can keep updated if there are any late uploads or any technical issues.
That's
and
right.
Also, that's basically how you submit questions as well. So it's the Facebook page that keeps giving.
It is. Well, shall we jump into the movie news?
Let's do it.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story. Cannonball!
So our first news story for this week, being that this is our Civil War episode, is about Captain America Civil War has overtaken Batman v Superman, and before that Deadpool, as being the biggest opening of the year so far. It's it's been a weird start to the year. Very strong start for the year for movies. Deadpool came out of the gate swinging with, let me check right here,
A lot, basically.
It came out with a $132 million start. Then Batman v Superman came out with $166 million start. And now Civil War has come out with $181 million start. So if this is any guide, then the movies this year will just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Exactly. I'm just thinking what Ghostbusters will open with 300 million at this rate, because it just keeps on going up and up and up.
That's right.
No, but I think it's amazing because it's had an international rollout, so its actual total right now globally is nearly $700 million, which means it's already surpassed eight Marvel films already, like Captain America, Winter Soldier, Iron Man 2, Ant-Man, Thor. It's pretty much over. It's just done massive business at the moment, and I think international rollouts can really, really help. In terms of marketing the film, because you get that goodwill, you get the hype, you get everything building up, the great reviews come in, whereas that can backfire, like with The Amazing Spider-Man 2 years ago. It got released in America a week or two after all the other countries, and it was just negative word of mouth coming from that film, which actually hurt its opening weekend, it's believed. But it can benefit, and with Civil War, it really did benefit, 90-ish% on Rotten Tomatoes, because this has been a big achievement, I think. Critically and financially.
It does make you wonder, though, because Marvel, it's I think the honest trailer of it expressed it so well with, Marvel, every movie you're thinking about, is this one going to be the one that sucks and ruins everything? Mm-hmm. As opposed to DC, you're thinking, is this going to be the one that's going to get things on track? But it's Marvel seems to be doing really well, but it's sooner or later.
Yeah, by law of averages, it's going to happen.
Sooner or later, they're going to have a bomb, but even their bombs still seem to be okay, don't they?
Yeah.
You can't keep this up forever, Marvel. I'm like a vulture just waiting to pick the bones and say I told you so, even though I didn't actually say so.
Exactly. No, it's just, even with Pixar, their first critical dud was Cars 2, and the first financial one is probably The Good Dinosaur. But even then, that's just gonna Finding Dory is gonna make a lot of money for the studio, and they'll just be right on track right after that. So basically, even if there is just one dud, people will watch it anyway. It will make a lot of money. Comparatively speaking, it'll probably be profitable, and all the fans will be like, "We got to watch this, otherwise we won't get the other 30 movies in the pipeline," and then it'll be forgotten about basically, and they'll all be forgiven.
That's right.
It's just like a snowball of success that just keeps growing, and I kind of admire it. As long as the films are good, I'll keep turning up. People are saying, "Oh, it's just another Marvel formula." And it was like the Marvel formula. What? Get a good director, good screenwriters, good actors. Making a good movie is considered some bad formula. Get out, you contrarians.
Yeah. But even like the Marvel formula now, again, we're not going to get into Civil War until we get to it, but. Mm-hmm. As we mentioned many times before, the different series have different sort of slot into different comic genres, and this is very much a spy espionage one. So obviously the formula for a spy espionage Captain America movie is going to be very different to like Doctor Strange.
Yeah, definitely.
So I mean, apart from the formula, really, when you think about it, is just make a good movie and also have fun.
Yeah.
And it's like, really, that should be the the formula for pretty much every comic book movie when you think about it.
Yeah, and it's just a good crowd pleaser. Like, we don't want to talk about it too much now because we'll talk about it later, but my screening was just having a terrific time, just laughing and cheering, and it's just a good movie to go to the movies to see. This isn't something that you should catch at home or catch on, like, shaky cam, pirated content or whatever. This is something that needs to be seen on the biggest screen possible, and it's going to dominate the box office for at least like 3-4 weeks. Like, what's the next big film? What is coming out over the next couple of weeks that could possibly match X-Men Apocalypse, like in 3 weeks?
Yeah, actually, yeah, I think that's the only other one. That's the only other sort of big movie.
Yeah, but for now, this is just going to dominate, and I look forward to seeing it dominate.
Likewise. Well,
It deserves it.
Speaking about domination, Russell Crowe is segue. Good segue.
What?
Russell Crowe has just been cast in the Mummy reboot. I didn't even know they were making a reboot of the Mummy series. Did you know that?
I knew a little bit about it. I don't know exactly what's happening with it. I know that Tom Cruise is in it, not as the Mummy.
Yeah.
The Mummy is you know Kingsman, the woman with the knife legs?
Oh, yep.
She's the Mummy.
Oh, a lady mummy, a mummette.
Lady Mummy.
Actually, she could just be a mummy. That's all right.
I don't know. I preferred Mummettes, but do you know who Russell Crowe is playing?
Yes, I've got it here. I got a quote from Russell Crowe. Hang on, I'll try to do my Russell Crowe voice.
Please do it in your fighter's accent.
Yeah! No, that's terrible. I'm not going to do that. He says, "Yeah, I'm going to do it." He says, "I'm gonna play Dr. Henry Jekyll, Fellow of the Royal Society. It's very interesting what they're going to do with that stuff. I've had a couple of calls about it with the director Alex Kurtzman. Good for you, Russell Crowe. Please don't beat up Tom Cruise, or do. That'd be awesome."
He's Jekyll.
Yeah, Henry Jekyll.
What? Oh wow!
Is Henry Jekyll like Dr.
Jekyll, Mr. Hyde? Yes, that's absurd. I didn't know that was happening.
Wait a minute, is this part of that thing where they're trying to build a monster movie Avengers?
Yeah, the Universal Cinematic Universe thing that they're hoping to do.
Now they've got me interested.
Yeah,
he's going to be Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde.
That's insane. Because they did do Dracula Untold like a few years ago, and they were thinking, okay, this movie's not this isn't a good movie in the editing room, so let's do some reshoots and make it the launch pad of this cinematic universe. So they added a few extra things. They got a cliffhanger ending, but the movie didn't perform very well. So this is basically another attempt to reboot that universe, starting with The Mummy. It comes out June next year. Then after that, we've got a Wolfman film. We're going to be getting Bride of Frankenstein, which has got Angelina Jolie rumoured to be attached. I think Johnny Depp is attached for The Invisible Man.
Oh my goodness, Johnny Depp is The Invisible Man?
I think he's either The Invisible Man or he's in that movie. I'm not sure.
I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I'm actually kind of interested for this Monster Avengers thing now.
I think this could be really, really good if they play it like action horror in a sense. Like, maybe don't dumb it down. Maybe try and go for an R-rated universe so you do have some real horror elements. But I think this could come together really well. We've got Creature of the Black Lagoon, Van Helsing, but we don't have many people attached to those projects yet.
Wow. Well, I don't know who Tom Cruise is playing in it, but he's starring in this. I don't
He's
think he's
essentially playing the Brendan Fraser character, I think. Like, just an explorer.
Yeah, like if they're getting together a Mummy Avengers, he'll probably be like the Rick Flag, like the dude that, is kind of the boss and looks after everyone sort of thing. That's like a Tom Cruise kind of role, isn't it?
Yeah, and because they've got Tom Cruise and Russell Crowe and Johnny Depp and Angelina Jolie, they're clearly going for the big prestige talent, which it's not a mistake to add talent, it's a good move.
Absolutely.
But that was a bombshell. Didn't realise that Russell Crowe was going to be playing Dr. Henry Jekyll.
Excuse me, sorry. I'm coughing away.
Oh, it's okay. You had your throat infection last week, so I imagine there's some residue there.
So I was sleeping off. I was on these really strong antibacterial biotic, whatever you call them. Oh God, it's so early here. It's so yeah, I was sleeping that off. Yeah, but all right. Next news story. Poor old Ben Affleck. It turns out that sad Affleck, that great internet video that everybody loved until the copyright robots blocked it because it had the Beatles music. Sad Affleck was very much accurate, because now it's been announced that Ben Affleck behind the scenes was very, very upset with how Batman v Superman was received and all the attention it got, and the rumors were that he was like frantically running around during filming trying to rewrite scenes and just trying to salvage something out of this train wreck of a movie. Mm-hmm. And the quote about Ben Affleck says this. It says, "My sources have told me that Affleck was incredibly unhappy about the reception of BVS. He felt humiliated after spending so much of the press tour saying how much better this film would be than Daredevil. On top
I love
of that,
how that's the barrier. That's the barrier to entry. Be at least as good as Daredevil."
It's funny because, like, I think when it was first announced, a lot of people, like myself included, we all brought up Daredevil. But I think by the time the movie came out, we're all like, yeah, that was long enough ago. You know, Gone Girl was pretty good. Yeah, we didn't really care about Daredevil at that point. He says, on top of this, his agent was furious when Kevin Sugihara jumped the gun and announced him as the director of The Batman when negotiations were still happening. Ooh. So he's been very unhappy, but he has actually been put on to the Justice League as executive producer. Which, that's like very, very new news, which means he will hopefully be able to have more control over Zack Snyder if they are keeping Zack Snyder as the director, because again, more rumblings about what's going on with Warner Brothers is that there's a huge amount of like back and forth between Warner Brothers and Zack Snyder and all this sort of stuff, but because Batman v Superman is still in cinemas in some countries, they probably don't want to sack him from Justice League while it's still in cinemas, because the last thing they need is more bad press that might stop people from going to see it. So, like, yeah, when Batman v Superman goes out of cinemas, we could see Zack Snyder removed. Maybe he'll stay on, but he'll just have more suits and everyone looking over his shoulders. But I'd be fine with Justice League if they got rid of Zack Snyder and just put Ben Affleck in the director's chair and let him sort of take control. I'd be much more happy with that. What do you think?
Yeah, well, Ben Affleck is an award-winning director. He didn't get nominated for the Oscars for Argo, but he basically won every other award. He won the Directors Guild of America award, which is like one of the most prestigious things a director can win outside of the Oscars. He is a great talent, and when people say he's going to suck because Daredevil sucked, that was 10, 15 years ago. Are you the same person you were 10, 15 years ago? People change, and he's clearly grown and evolved as a director. And him being involved in a creative capacity on any film is great. And the fact that he is so heavily invested in the Batman character he was the best thing about that movie. Him and Alfred, Jeremy Irons. Those two together were terrific, and I look forward to seeing those two on screen again. And it doesn't surprise me that he was running around behind the scenes trying to fix this sinking ship that was Batman v Superman. And what surprised me most about that quote you read out, though, was that his agent were furious that Kevin Sugihara dropped the fact that he would be directing the Batman. Clearly, they want to try and they want to make face and act like everything is going completely fine while Batman v Superman is still in theatre, so they can get as much money as possible. But it wouldn't surprise me if once that film leaves and stops bringing in any money, that all of the news stories are going to start breaking about who's left, who's come on board to replace and such. Because Seth Grahame-Smith left. There were rumours that James Wan left, but he seemed to have denied those rumours on Twitter. Basically, the DC division of Warner Brothers is just on. It's essentially the building's on fire at the moment. Niggas running, looking for the exit, trying to put the fire out, metaphorically speaking.
Yeah.
So Ben Affleck's great, and what's disappointing is that this DC universe has got some terrific talent in front of and behind the camera, but they just need one proofreader. That's all you need. One person to read that script and just say no. That's all you need.
But didn't Ben Affleck bring on his own writer as well to handle the script and sort of fix up David Goya's mess? But the story was Chris Terrio, that's right. But the story was still an absolute mess. So, I don't know what happened. Who knows what happened with that movie? We may never know exactly what happened.
I cannot wait for all the DC cinematic universe to wind down. We'll get Suicide Squad, Wonder Woman, Justice League, and I imagine that will be it, because they've got all these plans. But mark my words, all of my other predictions over the past few weeks about this, since Batman v Superman being released, have come true. So mark my words. I look forward to the documentaries, looking at what happened behind the scenes, who was arguing with who, what wasn't working, who was responsible for this. I cannot wait for those stories to come to light. It's going to be terrific.
Right. But mind you, with the state of the DC universe, the way that it is now, that does leave the door open for Aquaman to sort of come in and surprise everyone. Because if that just comes in and just makes a kind of good movie, everyone's going to be like, wow, Aquaman. It's one of those rules of low expectations will, you slightly surpass it. People like, wow, that's amazing. So here's your chance to shine, Aquaman. Come and do something amazing.
Yeah, and in France it'll be like, oh, it's Waterman. He's going to be terrific. Because when you had that little clip in Batman v Superman of just him looking at the camera very, very awkwardly, like that Zoolander mermaid video.
Yeah.
What's going to sell that movie is going to be terrific trailers, a good marketing campaign. Because I think even if the film's terrific, you've got to get over that the expectations that Aquaman is a really, really stupid character. If you've read the comics recently, you'll know that he's an absolute awesome badass who's basically Superman if he was underwater. But there is still this preconceived notion that basically out of the water he is useless. But
have you seen that Family Guy skit where?
Oh yeah, there's a robbery happening on the beach.
Yeah, it's this guy assaulting the woman, and Aquaman's standing ankle deep in water, and he's like, "Hey, stop that!" He's like, "You're in such trouble now, buddy. I got 20 fish coming to get you."
Have you ever seen Team 4-Star? They do the Dragon Ball Z parodies and stuff on YouTube, and one of their earlier episodes, they're talking about getting the Justice League in to help save the day, and Aquaman's like, "Hey, we could use whales." No, Aquaman, no, come on, guys.
But as Mr. Sunday Movies points out, he could actually make a Sharknado with all his powers if he wanted to. Now that's pretty cool.
Have you seen the poster this week for Sharknado 4?
No, what is it? What do they look like?
The poster parodies The Force Awakens. It's like Sharknado, the fourth Awakens or something. And it just looks... I'd rather
Finn
drown.
Awakens or something?
The fourth, because it's the fourth movie. Sharknado, the fourth Awakens.
Right. That's a terrible pun.
It is, but you have to look. You can look forward to that at the end of July on the Sci-Fi Channel.
Now, you had a news story you wanted to bring up, a certain trailer, which I haven't seen. Yeah. Maybe you could describe it to me.
Speaking of sharks, a trailer dropped. This is relevant. A trailer dropped a day or two ago for a movie called the USS Indianapolis: Men of Courage, and it stars Nicolas Cage, and it's got a TV director working on it. It's a big budget film that's aiming for a Memorial Day weekend release at the end of May. And Nicolas Cage is it portrays the true story of the USS Indianapolis. Have you ever seen Jaws?
Yep.
It's the story that what's his name tells. Quint. It's the story that Quint tells when they get drunk on the boat about them on the USS Indianapolis, and it gets shot by a torpedo, and they were carrying like one of the hydrogen bombs during World War II, so that they couldn't broadcast a message asking for help because it was such a secretive message. And like 1,000 people were on the ship, and they got caught in the ocean, and many of them died out at sea and were eaten by sharks. And it's basically that story. And the trailer, it's a 3 or 4 minute trailer, really long, and it's the entire movie in 4 minutes. It is literally the entire film. You know that Nicolas Cage's character survives because you see him saluting his soldiers at the funeral. You see him saluting a Japanese man at the funeral, which I'm assuming is meant to be his "I forgive you" moment or something. You see all of this stuff, and me and my girlfriend were watching the trailer. We're like 2 minutes into it. We're bored senseless. And she's like, "When do the sharks show up?" And it's like, this is meant to be a true story, but it was so boring that we were waiting for the sharks to show up. The special effects were terrible. It looks so cheap, but it's meant to be so sincere and earnest, and it's meant to portray the story of these brave men who died on Memorial Day weekend and everything. It's such a bad trailer.
Trilbee, are you actually suggesting that Nicolas Cage might be involved in a movie that's not good?
See, I wouldn't want it, because that would be really going against the grain for the guy. So I don't really want to. I don't want to say that. I mean, Left Behind was that was something else. When you said that he survived, I was like, oh, because I just thought, no matter how boring this movie is, to have a scene where Nicolas Cage gets eaten by a shark would be worth it. Mm-hmm. But if he survives, we're not going to get that. So yeah, and like you watch the trailer, and like every other shot is pixelated, blurry stock footage. The CGI submarines and the missiles look the worst. The guy who's directing it is Mario Van Peebles, and he's done a lot of acting, but he's also directed quite a few TV shows of like what's he done? He's done things like. I think he's done a few episodes of Breaking Bad. He's done Sons of Anarchy and stuff like that, and a few episodes of Lost. And I think this is his like big feature film debut, and it just looks pants. Like I just thought because
I'm just imagining Nicolas Cage just floating in the water, going, "The salt water is in my eyes,
Come get me, sharks!" A shark comes up, he just punches it in the face. Like obviously, it's meant. No disrespect at all to the people who died in the USS Indianapolis. It's a depressing story, but the trailer and this movie looks so bad, and it just shows what happens when just pure formula and patriotism can backfire. Like the film could be awesome, but if you just watch this 4 minutes, it looks like an SNL sketch in a sense of the way it's shot and how Nicolas Cage is acting. It almost sounds like a spoof, like Nicolas Cage is on the USS Indianapolis.
I kind of want to go watch this trailer now.
Just
to see how bad it is.
And if you watch the trailer, like I said, it's the entire film. It's the whole thing.
All right, I'll put it on my watch later list on YouTube. All right.
But yeah, and if you look at the poster,
forward to reviewing that movie.
Yeah, if you look at the poster, it's just a bunch of floating heads, and yeah, it's not great. So yeah, folks in America, you can look forward to USS Indianapolis Men of Courage on Memorial Day weekend on May 30th. I don't know what's happening with the UK, but
we're so looking forward to it.
At least watch the trailer. So,
well, it turns out that we have someone cast as the young Han Solo in the as yet unnamed Han Solo movie. A guy called Alan
Alden Ehrenreich.
Yeah, there you go.
And trust me, I only know that name because he was in that Hail Caesar Coen Brothers movie a few months ago.
Yeah. The only thing it's got next to his name here is pretty much Hail Caesar.
Yeah, and he was really good in that film. He was really good. He was one of the breakout stars of that film, and that film had like Josh Brolin, George Clooney, Ray Fiennes, and Scarlett Johansson in it, and he's practically an unknown, and he was the breakout hit of that film. He did great. I don't know if I see him as Han Solo, but this project is lining up to be pretty good. It's got the Lego Movie and Jump Street directors on board, and Alden Ehrenreich seems like the real deal. He was great in Hail Caesar, so This could be good. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, as someone who has never seen Hail Caesar or anything that this guy has done, let me jump in and criticize him on totally superficial reasons and say why he'd be a terrible Han Solo.
Oh, internet.
His face. First of all, he doesn't look...
Right to the point.
He doesn't look roguish enough, you know? If he's young Han Solo, he's supposed to be the Han Solo that would shoot first and would kill Greedo in the bar. This guy, he just looks too nice. He's got like a soft face.
His face is so
friendly.
soft, I want to punch it.
Yeah, he's got a very punchable face. But hey, if he's as good as an actor as you say he is, then hopefully he can crank up the Han Solo-ish roguishness up to 11. But yeah, I was hoping like Liam Hemsworth would get it or something.
I don't doubt his talent. He was in Hail Caesar. His whole shtick was that he was this really charming, badass cowboy on screen.
Tomato's calling.
Oh, okay.
Well, yes, ladies and gentlemen, he is here. He has called in. He has joined us. We have him patched in on the other line. The great Couch Tomato. Hello, Couch. Are you there?
I'm here, man. You're much too kind. Hey, guys.
Hello.
Thanks for having.
Oh yeah, and Trilbee's still here as well.
What's up,
Yeah,
Trilbee?
I know. I never left.
The amazing Couch Tomato. Allow me to do a little bit of bragging for Couch Tomato because he's too humble to brag, so let me to brag for him. Couch Tomato, you will know him from YouTube. He's part of the Cinema Sins crew. He's like sort of part of that Avengers YouTube type group. Everything's Avengers because just saw Civil War. He runs a channel called Couch Tomato where even if you're not subscribed, you will have seen his videos before because he does, I suppose you call them equal videos. He has 24 reasons like Force Awakens is like A New Hope, and he goes through it, he breaks it down plot point by plot point, and he like compares movies, and he finds these amazing similarities between movies that you would never imagine were similar, but when he breaks it down, you're like, oh my god, they've just taken the story exactly. And it will be something like The Matrix is like The Notebook. And you're like, yeah, it makes sense by the end of it. So that is Couch Tomato. Check him out on YouTube.
My personal favourite is 30 Reasons Why Nightmare on Elm Street 4 is the same movie as Inside Out.
That's one of my favorites too. Mainly because of the I did that video with Tyrone Magnus, and it seems like every time I do a video with a guest, their voice is like way better than mine. So I love that video just for his voice alone. So that if you haven't seen it, definitely check it out.
It's amazing. Well, Couch, just when you called, we were just in the middle. We were talking about the news story that we have a new Han Solo, who is Alan Einrichs. Why do I suck with names? I suck with
Alden
names.
Ehrenreich.
Thank you, Trilbee.
Breaking news. I mean, I've been behind a laptop all morning and pretty much this whole week. So this is the first that I'm hearing it, and I'm actually going to look this guy up. What's his name?
Alden Ehrenreich.
Yeah, that's right.
Don't
Why do I
don't
keep trying to
try.
say his name? I can't say it.
Have we seen this guy? Have we seen this guy before?
He played the cowboy actor in Hail Caesar, the Coen Brothers film a few months ago.
Yeah, he's
okay.
essentially a new guy. I'll tell you what, while you look that up, Couch, I'll actually read a quote from this other guy who also went to the same auditioning thing. Because this news story, it's weird. Like, it's about... I pretty much only bring it up so we could discuss the new guy, but this news story was about that the casting process was apparently broken, according to this other British actor who didn't get the part. So I'll just read it out while you Google this guy. Jack O'Connolly, a young British actor who has appeared in dramas such as Angelina Jolie's Unbroken and the upcoming Money Monster with George Clooney and Julie Roberts, has said that this casting process was garbage. Now, it sounds like he's just whinging because he didn't get the part.
That's what it sounds.
So I'm kind of like, why is this even a news story? But I only bring it up so we can talk about new Han Solo. But this guy says, I'll play some sad Hulk music right here. He says, the most frustrating thing is when you feel like your full potential hasn't been recognized, or that the imagination required for your potential to be recognized just isn't there. It's very hard to convey all these things in one audition. And That's the process, and I don't think one individual will ever be able to change that. Well, why did you cry about it? Maybe you didn't get the part because you suck.
It sounds like he did cry about it, though. That's the thing.
Yes, Jack O'Connell is a really good talent. He's done some terrific work recently. It's like, suck it up, man.
No, but not only that. It's, you got to realize, this is a Han Solo film. It's Disney's. It's a Disney project, right? You got to realize Disney's been. You want to be as nice to those people as possible. Just because DC roles aren't the easiest to come by. So, Warner Brothers, excuse me, but I don't know if, I'm praying for that guy, that quote doesn't start trending, because I'm pretty, Disney doesn't, forget anything. So, they're like the league leaders in, recasting folks and also not doing business with folks after they get dissed publicly. Right. So, yeah, so I would, I'll keep my fingers crossed for that guy.
Yeah, but Alden Ehrenreich's whole shtick in Hail Caesar was that he was a badass cowboy on film, but when he was behind the cameras and talking to people normally, he was just the nicest person in the world, and really sincere and really humble. So that doesn't really speak to me as a Han Solo. I was thinking more maybe a Jack O'Connell or a Taron Egerton from Kingsman, someone who could play that smuggler type role. Well, it depends what type of direction they're doing.
That's what I meant when I said this guy doesn't seem roguish enough. Taron Egerton, he's got that roguishness. Even though he's very polite in interviews, he's got that edginess.
And as much as I want to, go ahead and critique the guy before the cameras start rolling, I've learned my lesson not to doubt what these guys are doing with Star Wars projects and Marvel projects, because they seem to be knocking it out of the park when it comes to casting. So I don't see it now. And I don't have a huge body of work to judge this guy, but I want to say I have my faith in Disney and everything that they're doing with Star Wars from what I've seen. That, come on, New Hope and Force Awakens. They one thing I could say is they do a good job of copying their own material. So they saw some Harrison Ford in this guy to go ahead and greenlight him as the new Han Solo. So let's wait and see, and let's reserve our judgment.
I just wonder if we'll see a young Lando Calrissian with him as well, because he's always like, we go back a long way, Lando and me, so that'd be cool.
It'll be nice, but I think they'll probably save some of that for the film. I would hope, because those poker games they're always talking about in Empire and stuff. It would be nice to get some of those Easter egg references.
Because that's how he won the Falcon, didn't it? He won it off a game of poker, space poker.
You stole my ship. I won it.
So I really don't know what they're. The only thing I for the longest I've speculated whether it's going to be a how young this guy was going to be, but just from the casting choice, you could kind of see what they're trying to do. But let's wait. Right now, it's almost overload with all these awesome movies coming out in December now. Like from February to December, we got awesome movies coming out. Yeah. So I'm trying not to think too far ahead. Otherwise, I'm just going to die of starvation, during the month of January and stuff like that.
That's right.
Yeah, but Phil Lord and Chris Miller, who are directing this, they are the champions of just making terrible ideas into awesome films, like Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, Lego Movie, 21 Jump Street. So I've learned lots about them.
Yeah, those are the new. I don't know who to compare them to, but they seem to be. Their name seems to be attached to everything right now, even when they're not even attached. I think studios have gotten smarter and started rumoring these guys so fans could purposely get happy about projects that have nothing to do with them. So yeah. I love Lego Movie. I think that's one of the most genius ideas I've seen in a long time.
I really like that too. I saw it just recently, actually, because I never saw it when it came out.
Dude, I bought the Blu-ray the first day out. That movie is legit, and it made me like what's his name, Chris Pratt. I wasn't a big Chris Pratt fan until that film, So kudos to those guys.
That's right. Well, our final news story.
Sorry to interrupt, but they're releasing an extended version of the Lego Movie that comes out on Blu-ray in like 3 or 4 weeks in the UK, in a special steelbook.
Okay, I think I may have led you on. I'm not that diehard when it comes to Lego. I'm probably not going to buy the extended version, but think the standard Blu-ray edition is just fine. You know, I get to kick my feet up and watch it with my daughter and my son and my youngest daughter. Got another one on the way, so that's new news, breaking story on Movie Mania. But
everything is awesome.
Yeah, exactly. Wow, what a great pun. But yeah, I'm probably not going to buy that special edition.
That's right.
Fair enough.
Well, our final news story, which will also help to transition us into our Civil War conversation, is about Paul Bettany's role as the Vision in Civil War. Don't worry, this isn't a spoiler. But if you've seen the trailers and you've seen some of the publicity, you notice that Vision, he's wearing like he's wearing like proper, just normal human clothes.
He's got a sweater.
He's wearing like a nice sweater and some nice trousers and all this. So this news story is about how they dressed him up like that and why Jarvis dresses the way he does. And the explanation is they thought, what would Jarvis wear? He said, I thought he would be confident and elegant in his taste, almost perfect. So we decided to look into men of the 1940s like Cary Grant. Very simple flannel trousers, elegant cashmere sweaters. It sounds to me like they just raided Paul Bettany's personal wardrobe and he's like, yep, this is what Vision will wear.
And two things. One, that was just a product placement, a missed opportunity. You know what I mean? They could have dressed him up in some Tommy Hilfiger or something and saw sales spike by 40%. But two, I don't know. I got the feeling from Age of Ultron that Vision was sort of a copycat. Remember, the whole cape idea came from him glancing over at Thor.
Right.
So it would have actually been true to his character if he would have just mimicked everything Tony wore. But nonetheless, I like what I saw from him in the movie.
Just imagine him walking around Avengers HQ with a Black Sabbath or AC/DC t-shirt on.
That would have worked. Those
funky sunglasses.
He would have been the first Avenger in history. Other than Steve Rogers, without daddy issues, and he would actually want to be like his father, as opposed to the other Avengers that want to be the opposite.
That's right. Well, guys, shall we jump into our feature presentation?
I'm ready.
All right.
Let's do it.
And now, our feature presentation.
All right, so feature presentation, ladies and gentlemen, Captain America Civil War. Now, don't worry if you haven't seen it. We're going to do both non-spoiler and spoiler talk. So first we're just going to talk about the movie without any spoilers, and then we'll give you a warning so you can go down to the time code and jump ahead when we get to our spoiler talk if you haven't seen the movie yet. So first off, just sort of general thoughts, guys. I'll tell you what, Couch, do you want the honours or do you want Trilbee to go first if you want time to think?
I would love the honors, actually.
Okay.
If we're talking
awesome.
about... I always say, hey, if you never have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. So I'll start off with some likes. Yeah. I mean, this movie, to me, I think it served as a perfect teaser for Spider-Man Homecoming and the Black Panther film. Those guys totally stole the show to me. So I'm looking forward for Phase 3 for Black Panther to see how they further develop him. And also I'm looking forward to unofficial Phase 3 because technically Spider-Man Homecoming isn't in the MCU, but it's in the MCU. You know, are they actually labeling Homecoming part of the Phase 3 projects?
I think they are, yeah.
All right, well, even better. Like I loved the dynamic between him, Tony Stark, and Aunt May. I think we have the best Aunt May we've ever seen in history. Like that dialogue and just the exchange between her and her nephew, I thought it was awesome. And also, I wasn't a big fan of Ant-Man, but after this, he's pretty awesome.
He's
I
pretty
think he's
cool, isn't he? Yeah.
Wow. I wasn't in love with the film like everyone else was, but after this, I was like, wow, I get it, and I'm looking forward to it. So this. I think if you were one of those people that rolled your eyes at the end of Age of Ultron, where Cap announced the new starting lineup and compared them to the Yankees and said, hey, here's your new Avengers, the B team, that is not a B team. And they make it clear in this movie that the Marvel Cinematic Universe, there is life after Tony Stark. There is life after Steve Rogers. There is life after Hawkeye, etc. So I love what I see from the new guys. And wow, they took over. Some dislikes, I think I'll save that later on for our discussions.
Sure.
But all in all, man, I just told you guys what I loved, and I'll leave it at that.
Absolutely. Trilbee, what were your thoughts on it?
It's basically everything you want from a blockbuster. It's everything you want from a theatrical experience. It's got thematic weight, it's emotional, it's action-packed, great spectacle, great characters, a lot of fun. But it's also dramatic as hell, especially towards like the last 20, 30 minutes. And I've given it some thought, and I think this is the best or second best movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I think it's better than Age of Ultron, and it's up there with the original Avengers. This is a terrific time at the movies. It is basically, it justifies the cinematic universe experiment just on its own, because you wouldn't be able to have a movie that goes in the directions that Civil War goes in if you didn't have these previous 10, 11, 12 movies building it up and establishing all of these characters. Like Tony Stark at the beginning of Iron Man is not the same character who he is at the beginning of Civil War. These characters are changing, they're evolving and growing. It's essentially the most expensive and biggest television series that's ever been made, except you have to wait 6 months for a new episode, and they're broadcast in cinemas instead of on TV.
Yeah.
It's just such a crowning achievement for the genre, and that airport fight is just... it's perfection. I love everything about it. I think that it still could have afforded, much like Age of Ultron, to still go in one or two darker places. I feel like, not to get into spoilers or anything, but there were people like, oh, who's going to die, who's going to live and stuff. They still do not get a handle on the consequences here. But the fact that you can get a movie that is not about the end of the world, that is not about like, oh, you've got to save this continent, you've got to save this city. The stakes aren't like that. They're much more personal, but it still feels grandiose. It still feels important. And I think that this is probably one of the best, if not the best, Marvel Cinematic Universe film.
I agree. I really loved it as well. And having seen it, because I saw it a couple of weeks ago, and then I saw it again last night, seeing it a second time, like it just sort of drove home to me, like once again, like how good the Russo brothers are at doing Captain America, these kind of comic book spy movies. Because watching it a second time, it's like... it's intricate, but it's not confusing. And it's like you won't miss anything important the first time you see it, but when you see it again, you'll notice more things tied together, and you're like, oh, okay, so that's why he said this, and that's why he said that. And I think that's the key to like a lot of good movies. You can have complex without confusing. And I agree with what you said, Trilby, as well, about how it's a tribute to the cinematic universe. And what I particularly love is like... again, no spoilers, but in the trailer you see the big airport fight where they're all fighting, and there's a bit in the trailers where like Hawkeye and Black Widow are fighting each other, and she's like, we're still friends, right? And he's like, yeah, just don't hit me too hard. And there's lots of moments like that when you can pile all these characters in together, and they just have these interactions, and they got a big history, and they're friends, and just those quips and the way they interact, and being able to see how Captain America like interacts with Spider-Man and all the rest of it, and how Spider-Man interacts with everyone else. It's just fantastic, because really, for me, that's what comic books are really supposed to be about. It's about these characters and their friendship and how they relate to each other. And that's why it's great that in this Marvel universe, everyone's got a history with each other and a backstory of their own. And it's just great to see them all together. And yeah, it basically is... like, I mean, I know a lot of the times with these Marvel movies, people always say, oh, it's like Avengers 2.5 or 1.3 or whatever they come up with. But in this time, since there's so many characters in it, pretty much everyone except Doctor Strange, whose movie hasn't come out yet, and Thor and Hulk. And it's fantastic. Yeah, it legit is Avengers 2.5. And I absolutely loved it.
I guess that's where now we talk about some stuff that I had issues with. Now, I wanted to say that good stuff because I even talked about this on my podcast, and I think some people got the wrong idea that I didn't like the movie. I liked the movie. I think we're at a point, and what I was trying to stress is we're at a point to where it's almost impossible for Marvel to make a bad movie because they've created a formula where they don't necessarily have to do too much character development. Because remember, a lot of these guys, their characters were fleshed out in phase 1 and also the phase 2 as well. So you know these guys, and honestly, it's just as entertaining to watch these guys just play golf for 2 hours because you like to see them exchange things. So I like the movie. I think it's good. I do not think it's the second best movie in the MCU. I do not think it's the third best. I'll even argue it's probably not even the fourth. So when that comes into play, I had issues with some of the reviews that it was getting because, you know, you talked about you seeing this movie weeks ago and you just saw it a second time. I just saw this movie Thursday. So this was one of the issues, times where, let me not call it an issue, but one of the times where America got it last, right? So I watch a lot of YouTube and a lot of people's opinions that I respect. They were claiming that this is the best. I'll quote some of these guys verbatim. I'm not going to start name dropping, but this is the best comic book movie ever made. That came from one source. Another one said the best action we've seen in a comic book movie, where I think the action actually took a step back when you compare it to Winter Soldier. But still, like I said, for it to be a top 4 movie in the MCU, that's a good problem to have. It's just, I think it suffered from, you talk about some of those deep moments. The strongest emotional tie I had with this film was Wanda's character. So just great job for them to developing her. But some of the issues that with Cap and Iron Man, no spoilers, but there's certain things that happen in the comics that are believable for that universe. But because of what we've seen in phase 1 and phase 2, I think they came about their decisions and it was rushed. And it was also things that Iron Man wouldn't do, because a lot of the issues he was dealing with in this movie, he already jumped over that hurdle in Iron Man 2. Same thing with Cap. This is Cap's movie, but he's probably the 4th best character in it. And I think that's an issue. You know, so I had some issues with the film, but keep in mind, I say it's a good film. I just don't agree with it being at a 92. I think this movie is a 82, 85, which is still a darn good movie. But yeah, I just think there's some flaws in this movie. I think the same issues, if you saw Batman v Superman, and if you really want to be honest with yourself, some of the issues you've had with that movie, you're going to have with this movie. I just think that some people are scared to say it out loud.
Okay, really? Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think, like people saying it's the greatest comic book movie of all time, I wouldn't go that far. And I'd actually say maybe some of the hand-to-hand fighting in Winter Soldier was actually better than this.
Yeah, I agree.
But
and just
there's
off
no
of that,
doubt, though, it's very good, though, for anyone who's freaking out.
Yeah,
See,
that's the thing, because wow, if you haven't seen this movie, you're going to be like, wow, the sky is falling. Oh no, I really want you to go watch this movie because I think it is a must-see in theaters. But then when you watch it, you're going to be like, oh, okay, you know, I've seen that before. You know, I've seen that in the trailer, and that didn't necessarily surprise me. Okay, Iron Man's doing this, but it just doesn't seem true to his character that they've developed over the past 8 years. And Cap's doing this when Cap would never do that, from what we've learned in Age of Ultron. So, you know, Russo brothers, this is the first compilation film, and I say compilation because I'm, you know, whenever you bring in more than 3 or 4 Avengers, but this is the first compilation film that we've seen in the MCU that wasn't directed by Joss Whedon. So for this to be their first film, I definitely think they're heading in the right direction, you know, because they had a lot more to juggle this time around than Winter Soldier, where there was only 2 Avengers in it. So, 3, because Falcon was just getting started off. So for this to be their start, I like where they're heading. I think they just had so much to juggle, because I'm pretty sure the studio threw Spider-Man on them at the last minute, and you could tell that story, the way it was weaved in, you know, it was some last minute things that happened. But I'm excited for the MCU, and at this point, they are critic proof. I don't think they can make a bad movie. I think you really have to put some effort into making a horrible film with these properties right now. But 92, like I said, I feel like it's 85, which and it may drop over time, but I think if you watch this a second time, and I'll have to watch it a second time because Bandit, you told me something totally different, and I'm like, all right, let me go back and watch it. But there's moments where I'm like, oh wait, come on, man, I can't believe you did it that way. And then some shaky cam stuff that I didn't see in Winter Soldier, I was like, don't do that, guys. But other than that, I think the fighting progresses as the movie comes along. And you talked about that airport scene. It's the defining moment in the movie, in my opinion.
Right. And also,
so what you're saying is you hate the movie.
No, don't.
Internet rules. You hate it. You're a hater couch.
I gave Winter Soldier. I gave Winter Soldier a 7 out of 10, and people are still to this day saying, "Why do you hate the film?"
But see, I could even understand.
That's not how numbers work.
I know. Yeah, I know, and that's the thing. Like, it's like we're living in a society today to where you're either really, really great or you're trash. If you're not great, you're trash. And I think that's what happened to a lot of the comic book movies that we've seen lately. They're good films, and if they would have been released like before 2012, when Avengers set that new measuring scale, they would have been considered great movies. But it's just that's the standard you have to work with now. And if you're a 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10, which are passing grades in grade school, by the way, you're considered a failure, and I don't think that's fair.
I think also like. Since we covered the good stuff, now we're covering a bit of the bad stuff, which I think something else with me, which we'll have to explain in spoilers in more detail when we get to it, was I think it ended in a little bit of a weird kind of way where I wasn't really sure where they're going to go from here, but like in a bad way though, because other times like movie ends and you're like, ooh, where are they going to go? And it's excited. With this one, I was like, where are they going to go with this? So, yeah, I think the ending had some issues, but also I do feel like... I'm trying not to give spoilers. I do feel like they repeated the same theme with too many people. Like, this person wants revenge, and this person wants revenge, but that person wants revenge. I was like, why does everybody want revenge? Like, I can have a few characters doing that, but not everybody.
They're not Joss Whedon. Like, the problem is Joss Whedon. I think people are going to appreciate him more now that he's gone, because everybody was just, throwing bullets at Age of Ultron. But the strength that I've seen in Joss Whedon is he could write like 3 or 5 scenes in a movie with all the Avengers in one room, right? And what you see with other writers and directors, they like to split them up because it's very difficult to write for 5 or more people at once. And even in this film, you saw them, Bucky's with Cap, and then you'll switch over to another conversation with just Iron Man and Black Widow. But Joss Whedon, he puts those guys all together, and I think you get to kind of hit. I don't know what's the saying? You kill one bird with like 2 stones, or opposite. You kill two birds with 1 stone. Yeah. Whoops! Don't kill birds, by the way. But
it's just throwing birds at stones.
Yeah, that sounds very difficult. But what you're talking about, Bandit, is I think that's the reason you kept seeing the same theme arise with different characters. I'm like, wow, why is this coming up again? Because this is the same thing Black Panther's going through. Why are they, why is she doing it? Why is he doing it? And I'm like, it would have been better off if they would have just, settled that at one scene. And another thing that you don't like that I love is the fact that they ended it on that cliffhanger-like way, because I won't get into spoilers, but this is the 13th film in the MCU, right? However, this is the second film to the Russo brothers. And those guys have geek and fanboy written all over them in a good way. Yeah. So I think they were Empire striking this baby back. And what I mean by that is this is their sequel, and I think they wanted to end on a cliffhanger where technically nobody wins, or at least the good guys don't win. And you get that film, that sense that's what they were trying to do in this film. And I called it before I even saw it. I said, people were asking me who's going to win. I said, I won't be surprised if they Empire strikes this baby back, so I think they went that route, and it worked, because I think that's something that I would like to see from Batman v Superman that they didn't. I thought it should have ended on the Martha. Like, where did you hear that name? Where did you why did you say that name? I thought I didn't think that a Doomsday was needed, but if you.
It's funny because it did cover a lot of the similar themes as well, in like collateral damage and how you balance that out and all this. So I think it handled that better. But yeah, I think it's funny that you're saying it Empire Strikes Back it, because even Spider-Man in this movie does mention Empire Strikes Back. Yeah.
And I didn't want to bring that part up, but yeah, like these guys are geeks, and it's like in a good way. And I'm like, it allows their moves to be understandable, what they're doing from a directorial standpoint. But I'm like, I totally got it. I think it's kind of cemented that they're going to be the ones directing the Infinity Wars, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So all they did, I'm imagining that cliffhanger was needed because the next time you see these guys, they'll kind of be harboring emotions from the last time you saw them, which is this film. So,
I got a. I'm not saying that this is better or worse than the movie, but I think that the Civil War ending gave me Dark Knight vibes. I'll probably talk about it more when it comes to spoilers, but it's like, what do they do now? Perhaps we have to chase him.
Yeah,
type thing.
Well, I do have a theory about what's going to happen, but should we jump into spoilers? Has anyone got anything they want to say before we jump into spoilers?
Let's
not really. Just see it 100 times.
Yeah, see, well, I wouldn't. That would actually get a little expensive, but I would say see it. I would definitely say see it. I'm not going to put a number on it.
We not going to. Okay. When Trey does this, he normally asks for us to score it. Well, I'll score it. I'd give it an 8 out of 10, just because I think the ending was a little weird, and it did repeat some of the same themes and arcs with a bit too many of the characters. What would you give it, Trilbee?
I'm gonna feel like the odd one out here. I'm going 10. I'm going all the way up. I am.
It's tough to feel. It's tough to feel odd when you're using even numbers. But
very good.
Yeah, you're definitely the odd man out because I'm gonna push with Bandit's 8, and I think it's an 8. I think it's definitely a nice addition to the MCU. You'll like it. There's a couple of parts you will not love, but it's okay to like a couple of things. Overall, I think you're gonna feel a lot better about some of these characters that you thought were B team players.
Yeah. And
so
look,
you both hated the film.
I know it's starting to sound like we hated it, but let me just point out one last thing before we jump to spoilers, everyone. The movie's the movie is quite long. Is on the long side, but it does not feel long. So that just goes ahead and shows you that it's worth it, and it's worth.
What's the runtime?
I don't.
147.
You know what? I'll give them cool points only because like you said, I didn't feel like I was in the theater that long, and I caught a late showing. I caught a 10:15, and it really felt like I was in there for like an hour and a half, which is unheard of when it comes to comic book movies. So good job for those guys.
I mentioned it on the podcast last week with Trey, but the UK equivalent of Roger Ebert, Mark Kermode, he did a review of Civil War, and he said in comparison, because it's so long.
Kermode, he's awesome.
He's awesome. He said that Civil War was a movie to be enjoyed, whereas Batman v Superman is a movie to be endured. It's just that 2.5 hour length. You don't feel it for this, but you really felt it with Batman v Superman. And not to try and create fanboy wars, although it does create internet clicks, which is terrific. But this is just a great antidote to what Warner Brothers offered a few weeks ago.
Right, and can I just say also on a side point, if you don't know who Mark Kermode is, just go to YouTube, type in Mark Kermode Sex and the City 2, because his Sex and the City 2 rant is hilarious.
Wow,
I've met Mark Kermode.
That's his defining moment.
Basically, right. And also Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End is terrific.
Oh yes.
His review of Entourage, the movie.
Oh, I haven't seen.
Basically,
that.
Just his rants are just terrific.
Really
great guy.
All right, spoilers. Captain America dies. No, he doesn't. It's
No, Tony Stark dies. Everyone dies.
Everybody dies in the end credit scene. Weird choice. Yeah.
I thought somebody would die because in the comics, what's his name? Goliath. He has a similar death to what I thought War Machine was going to face with the hole in the chest. But I called it and I said I knew he wasn't going to die because Russo brothers are notorious for putting fake deaths in their trailers. Because the whole Samuel L. Jackson thing in the Winter Soldier trailer. And now this, I was like, he's not going to die. Those guys just like to give you the bait and switch. So I'm glad nobody died in this movie because you got a sense to where the part that you loved, Bandit, you said that they had some playful banter while they were fighting, like Black Widow and Hawkeye. Hey, are we still cool? And she's like, as long as you don't hit me too hard. So it felt like although there were some stakes, these guys were kind of having fun with it, and it would just be unfortunate for somebody to go out in a movie with these type of stakes. You know, it would have been pretty sad. It would be kind of embarrassing.
It was kind of like a reverse. It was kind of like a reverse twist, if I can say that, just because like anyone who's read the Civil War comic knows that it ends with Captain America dying. So a lot of those people were expecting Captain America to die. So for him to not die turned out being more of a surprise than if he did. So I actually appreciate that. Die.
Yeah, I knew he was going to die. Like that's something. The comics it's cool because it's a smaller fan base. You got to realize that, but also they're not the most loyal to who lives and who dies because you could always bring somebody back. You're not going to kill Steve Rogers. He's going to die of old age in this universe only because a lot of the first group of Avengers, they're so beloved, and it's like if you do that, people are gonna scream for Kevin Feige's head. Like they're not killing that guy. He's gonna die of like I said, of old age.
Can I say something controversial? Hawkeye?
Nope.
I still hate you, man. You suck.
What?
He still sucks. I love the bit where he goes to Black Panther. He's like, "Let me introduce myself. I'm Hawkeye." And Black Panther just goes, "I don't care."
Yeah, I don't know
yes,
if
nobody cares. I don't care about your farm, Hawkeye. I don't care about your family. You suck.
I don't know if that's too controversial because I think there's there's a small percentage of people who like Hawkeye, and I just I felt like what the damage they did to him in the Avengers, it was just so hard to come back from. But another guy that I thought was going to shape up to be another Hawkeye-esque character is this guy Falcon. I thought Falcon was laughable. I thought that his name was just horrible. He's okay as a sidekick, but as an Avenger, I just didn't buy it. I laughed when he came up on the screen in Ant-Man. But when some of the aerial stunts that he pulls off in this movie is only second to Iron Man. Like this guy came to play, and I'm not going to look at you sideways if I hear somebody say, you know what, that's my top 5 Avenger. Like this guy shot up the rankings, in my opinion. And it's amazing. Like what they did with him, they were unable to do with War Machine, and they were unable to do with Hawkeye. Like this guy comes to play in this movie. Like I love him now. You know what I mean? It's his wit, the way he talks back, the way he doesn't give a damn about you if you're not part of Rogers camp. I thought it worked, and it was just amazing.
One of my favorite scenes was Ant-Man's introduction when he's on the back of the truck. And of course, it's the last time he saw Falcon was when he was ripping his jetpack to pieces, and then Falcon's
he's like, "Sorry about that, mate."
Like, "What's up, Tic Tac?" Which is terrific.
I noticed also. Oh, sorry, go on. I'll wait.
Well, I was going to say I really liked Hawkeye in this film, to be honest, because obviously he's one of the weaker Avengers, but I loved the audacity of him walking into Avengers HQ to get Wanda, and even though he's literally standing up to a god machine thing, Vision, he still tried. Still tried to fight him.
I still don't like him. I still wish he got shot and we had Quicksilver instead. I just think he's lame.
Well, I thought I wasn't in love with Quicksilver as well. I think those Sokovia accents are horrible, but I could deal with one of them at a time. But when you have 2 people coming at you with those horrible accents, it's just unbearable. So I like the fact that they're killing people in this universe. I'm all thumbs up when it comes to death, killing your heroes. But Hawkeye, I think it's kind of like the Walking Dead rules. They're not going to kill him because he cheated death in the last movie. Yeah, so he has about three more movies. Yeah, so that whole Glenn dynamic, he's not, I knew he wasn't going to die in this movie, but I thought they wasted an opportunity in Age of Ultron. He should have died, but probably he'll never die now.
That's right, yeah.
I think that they really should have offed War Machine. Like maybe not kill him, but like he is crippled at the end of the film in a sense. But he may come back in like a Iron Man wheelchair or something, which would be pretty cool. But like
he'll be
I
Professor
think maybe,
Xavier.
Yeah, that's
Iron Xavier.
But I do think like with Falcon though, because it's like you said, like Falcon, his gimmick of like just having the jetpack and the wings. You think there's a lot of ways that could be just kind of bland, kind of like Hawkeye. But he makes it his own. He does this thing where he uses his wings sort of like a shield to block. He does a thing where like someone shoots at him, he turns his back, and with his wings he sort of shields his body from the bullets. There's another bit where when he's flying, a guy's shooting at him at the beginning, but he sort of folds his wings over him and does this spin thing. So
that part's on the trailer too. And
he's got his little mini falcon thing.
Yeah, what did he call it? Red Wing? That's what you said?
Wing. Yeah. It was like the Green Goblin's hoverboard.
But even take away some of the tech from him. It's his attitude. I was like, wow, you feel his presence.
He's not just a sidekick.
And another person I thought had the potential to die, because when you start and technically, because we're in spoiler territory now, he is X'd out of this universe to a degree, which is Winter Soldier, because he goes back to the cryogenic sleep. But I just felt that you can't have those two people exist in the same universe at the same time, because ultimately they're the same guy. They're on Roger's they're right-hand men, and you can't have two right-hand men, because that just defeats the purpose of the whole phrase. So when it came down to guessing who was going to die, I was hoping Falcon probably, he got paralyzed or something, just because Winter Soldier was so cool in the Winter Soldier. But there were a couple of moments where I was more interested in watching Falcon than the Winter Soldier in this film. So that just kind of shows you.
But how great were they together as a comedy duo? Yeah. In a sense, like they got some great moments together, like when Cap kisses Agent 43 or whatever, and they just look at him. When they get knocked over by Spider-Man, it's like, I hate you.
I love that bit where Winter Soldier's like, who the hell is that? And he's like, I don't know, everyone's got a gimmick now.
You're not meant to talk this much during a fight.
But that was so awesome. I love what they did with Spidey, because the whole thing about Spidey is when it comes to quips, he's like the quip king, and I felt that they muzzled him kind of like the Deadpool treatment in some of the other franchises. But this one, he talks it borderlines too much, because you get annoyed, but you feel Falcon's pain, like, oh my God, just shut up and just go somewhere. But I loved it though. I was like, no, that's Spider-Man I grew up with on Fox 29.
Yeah, it was really true to the comics in a sense. Like, just being accurate to the comics doesn't automatically mean you're good, but when you represented Spider-Man, one of the reasons he quips so much is because he is terrified underneath that suit, and he uses the jokes as like a sort of coping mechanism to act like tough, to act like he doesn't care. And I got that sense during the fight. Like he's quipping and he's making these terrible jokes because he wants to impress Tony Stark. He wants to act really cool in front of him. And I loved how they were able to play his arc into Tony's arc, because Tony begins the movie with this, he's given these grants to these students, and he wants to try and make the world a better place without Iron Man. But then he realizes that he's not able to put that lifestyle away. So maybe he's trying to move that on to Spider-Man, to this kid who he thinks is a science prodigy. And I think that even though Spider-Man must have been a last-minute inclusion in this film, they still wove him in really well.
Yeah,
I'm willing to bet like Tony and Black Panther would have had some moments if Spider-Man wasn't in there, but still it worked perfect with Spidey. And Tony Stark's my favorite character in this universe. By the way, I have Iron Man pajamas, literally, like I really do. So he's my favorite character. And one thing I like about him, you got to realize this guy, I love him more in 3-piece suits as opposed to Iron Man suits. I think he has savvy when it comes to leadership. He was a CEO of a Fortune 500 company, right? So you have that aspect of it. He's doing some liaison work with the government in this film. I think ultimately he's going to step into a more a stronger leadership role and become the new Nick Fury for the Avengers or whatever they're going to call themselves, because I want to see him more in that capacity, because everybody always says, oh, he makes horrible decisions. Up until this movie, all of his decisions, the results, you can't argue with them because he's always right. You just never agree with his methods. But so I think he could be a great leader, and he doesn't keep as much secrets as Nick Fury. So I like the fact that he recruited 100% of his team. And I'm like, wow, I'm starting to see some of those leadership intangibles that I've been waiting for. So I loved what they did with his arc.
Yeah, and I totally I was team Stark with the whole Stark versus Captain America thing, even though I do like Captain America as a character probably more than Iron Man. I was more on Tony Stark's side, especially with the Bucky stuff, because I was like, come on, Captain America, I know he's your friend, but he's like, he can't even, you can't trust him, he can't even trust himself. Yeah, and in the end, he has to freeze him in the end anyway. It's like, so yeah, he could have saved a lot of trouble by just handing him over.
That's where we talk about some of the issues that I have, and to say it more direct, you kind of, to paraphrase what you're saying, and if you watch Iron Man 1, Iron Man 2, Iron Man 3, Avengers 2, Tony Stark has a certain arc. Like you never go back to Wells. Like he had some daddy issues that we saw start up in Iron Man 1, but he came to grips with them in Iron Man 2. So ever since then, you've never really seen Tony Stark really have those daddy issues anymore. He was struggling from nightmares with aliens on Iron Man 3 and relationship opportunities. In Avengers Age of Ultron, he's struggling with something totally different, which is just fear of kind of not being able to protect everything. In this movie, it just felt like the Russo brothers, like they didn't watch Phase 1. I know they did, but they were bringing in an older version of Tony Stark that I'm like, okay, I wanted to go into this movie and agree with Tony and agree with Cap. Like I didn't want it to be some kind of BS excuse why they were signing or not signing the Sokovia Accords. I couldn't really find that common ground with any of them because some of their motivations didn't make sense. Tony Stark, the same Tony Stark who never listens to anyone. By the way, that's the reason that caused the rift between him and Cap in Age of Ultron, because he doesn't listen to people close to him. So you're meaning see, he listens to a lady who gives him an elevator speech, a stranger. And I get it. It was a heartfelt story. And I mean, I'm African American myself. I gotta admit, when it comes to some issues when they're culturally sound, you kind of feel for the occasion. But I'm like, wait a minute, Tony, you never listen to anybody. It's in your head, you're always right. I want to see that, Tony. I want you to agree with the Sokovia Accords, but don't let that be the reason you agree with it. So I felt that was a little weak. Captain America, he doesn't sign the papers because he goes to a funeral and he's given a speech on why he shouldn't. Like that speech just wasn't subtle at all. Like she was like, hey, no matter what, Tony Stark is telling you, don't sign. And I'm like, wait, are we at a Captain America meeting or is this a funeral? And
she did specifically target it to him because she
looked at him the whole time.
The speech that she even leaked information to him. She would have been fired as a CIA agent after that.
The speech that Sharon says at the funeral is the speech that was in the Civil War comic book series where he's talking to Spider-Man.
I get it that it was in the comics, but for this universe, it didn't fit in. Even the speech that the lady gives him at the elevator, that was in the comics as well. So, but I'm like, wait, I know you're trying to be true to the comics, but that doesn't tie into what you've already built in this universe. So when it came to the Sokovia Accords, I really couldn't find a side. The only thing that it's Captain America's movie, I didn't feel like he was acting in character because he loves Tony Stark like a big brother. And he beats him up. He tries to beat him up in Age of Ultron when Tony just won't listen. It's like, hey, turn off the machine or I'm going to have to fight you. So when Cap, to me, that shows me when Cap feels that he's right or you're in the wrong, he's going to make you join his side by force. And with Bucky, he almost had this hands-off approach to where I don't care who Bucky kills. I'm just going to let him do it and I'm going to try to talk him down. When I'm like, no, you don't even operate that way with Stark or Thor.
That's why there is that divide at the end of the movie, because Captain America has to accept his own mistakes, which he admits in that letter to Tony at the end when they have that action sequence at the beginning and Crossbones mentions Bucky, he just completely loses it for a moment, and he is partially responsible for that incident that starts off this whole thing. Yep. Because he let his guard down. So this isn't just about the Sokovia Accords. Civil War is about these long-standing personal issues between the Captain America and Tony Stark. Like the reason that the mother affects him so much at the beginning with her story is mainly because of the timing. Because he's been trying to give up the Iron Man mantle for a while, but he's not able to do it. So he's trying to find new ways of helping the world without the suit. Like he's given the grants to all these promising young kids. And then Pepper leaves him. I wish that she'd had some appearance in this film, but it was off screen, which is frustrating.
Went nowhere, didn't it? It was sort of brought up.
They're
having
relationship
issues, and
it's him relapsing into his own personal anxiety and his own personal issues, which is why he took that woman's words to heart so much, and why he was so quiet when they were talking about the Sokovia Accords. And there's Natasha saying, "You are surprisingly non-hyper vocal."
Yeah, but let me say before we move on too much, just to jump back, I do think though, like I agree, Couch, with like some of what you said about Tony Stark, that he'd already sort of resolved his daddy issues. He doesn't really need to resolve them again. And they even have that scene with the de-aged Robert Downey Jr.
It didn't look too believable.
No, it didn't look as good as the de-aged Michael Douglas in Ant-Man.
Exactly.
But
yeah.
At least it was a hologram in the thing, so it kind of makes sense, I guess, in the context of the story. But in this movie's defense, having watched it a second time, it wasn't daddy issues, it was mummy issues. Because when he goes off to Winter Soldier at the end, he's like, I don't care. He killed my mom, and her name is Martha. So he's got doubly the reason.
And not only that, he killed his mother on a road with no power lines whatsoever, but seemed to have a hidden camera somewhere. I didn't get that part.
Very convenient.
But, yeah. Wow.
And he shoots the camera after he's already killed
and the
two
best
of them. And
lighting I've ever seen. Yeah. He turns around, says hi to the camera, and uploads it to YouTube. So that was just kind of awkward.
But also,
even stay on that topic, because this is the first time we saw that, hey, this golden boy that we like to shine up really nice, named Steve Rogers, he's not really gold, because he showed a flaw. This is the first time he had a demon, and he lied. He's been lying to Stark. I don't know for how long, but he was the one responsible for the murder of Howard and Maria Stark, and he kept it from Tony. So I thought that was cool. Like, haha, you're not so perfect after all, Mr. Rogers, and it worked.
I do agree with you that like the way he handled Bucky in this movie was a little bit out of character, because like it's one thing like at the end of Winter Soldier where it's just him and Bucky and he refuses to fight Bucky. And like that's in line with his character, but in this he's like going so far out of his way to defend Bucky. Like when the German police come in, Bucky is like, "Don't worry, I'm not going to kill anyone." And then he grabs a block of cement and cracks it over a cop's head.
I'm not going to kill anybody. I'm just going to permanently injure them and cripple them. And Steve is like, "All right, perfect. Just as long as we have the technology, Stark could make them walk again." But
I'm going to pick up this thing that you used to bash the door down, and I'm going to ram this guy as hard as I can, right in the heart. I'm sure it'll be fine.
Even on Winter Soldier, he fought Bucky, and it got to a point to where it was like, hey, if we fight anymore, it'll be to the death, because I'm shot, your arm is kind of hurt, and if I do anything else to you, I'm going to kill you. I don't want to kill you, but he was fighting Bucky up to that point. So to me, I was like, wait, why don't you just? You're strong, you're capable. You could at least temporarily cripple Bucky to a point where you could bring him in to face justice. You know what I mean? You don't have all the answers right now. If you feel that he's being framed, get him to a place where you could actually question him. And I thought that part was just dismissed. Like when I saw him letting Bucky do whatever he wanted, I'm like, you never let Stark get away with stuff like that. You know, you always open your mouth, and it's like, wow, talk about playing favoritism, like for real.
Yeah, I agree with the other side of character, but I think part of the reason they did that is because, like, there's really two reasons for all the conflict in this. One of which is the Sokovia Accords, which is basically Superhero Registration Act from the comic books, and the other half is Bucky. And I think they had those two things because all the political stuff for the Sokovia Accords, not everyone understands that, not everyone cares about that.
Yeah.
So for those people, they also just had the stuff with Bucky. So depending on your cup of tea, you can understand both. But I did like the way they sort of discussed the Sokovia Accords, and like where like Captain America is like, but if we sign up with this, what if they start a war and then they're like, we want you guys to end it? Or what if like there's a war and there's like, you know, someone who's like killing his own civilians and we want to go in and stop it, and they're like, no, we get cheap oil from them, just leave them alone.
Yeah.
You know, because then they become just a government tool and they can't do what's right.
But even Stark and Black Widow bring it up, and I felt Black Widow's feelings at that point were genuine, to where it's like, look, we kind of don't have a decision in this matter. I understand what you're trying to say, Cap, but we just actually killed, X amount of people from trying to defend a foreign soil, which we had no jurisdiction to be in. So now we kind of have to submit, because otherwise they're going to take this over. I'd rather us pull the strings than them.
Yeah, it's Tony trying to make the best of a bad situation, because I'm surprised that in Age of Ultron they didn't mention the Hulkbuster incident, because they didn't mention the casualties of the collateral damage from that, which is surprising.
They mentioned, I think they mentioned just because wasn't that in Sokovia?
Oh yeah, that was in Sokovia too. Yeah.
So they mentioned all the casualties in Sokovia, and I think that's.
Oh no, wait, it was in South Africa, wasn't it?
Oh,
so we'll get emails. We better get it right.
Yeah, well, is it probably that's what they were probably tripping over. Black Panther and his father, maybe, because they talked about. They kept bringing up, because I don't know if they're going to make Wakanda like an extension of Nigeria or something. And they were talking about Nigeria. So I have to go back and watch Age of Ultron to see exactly where that was. But that's probably what those guys were upset about. The one terrorist attack that I'm surprised nobody mentioned?
What's that?
The attack on Harlem. And what I mean is in The Incredible Hulk, the attack on Harlem is actually General Thunderbolt Ross's fault. So when you talk about collateral damage, I don't know if he's the best person to give a speech on it, because he's actually
that was his fault.
Exactly. And to me, that's why I never really bought the motivations for Stark, Cap, or the powers that be. Because I'm like, wait, all of you guys are kind of guilty of everything that you're saying that you don't want to do.
Well, I think Falcon's argument on that was, he was saying to Captain America, he's like, well, this isn't S.H.I.E.L.D., this isn't Hydra, this isn't our government. He's like, this is 117 countries in the UN. We can't just dismiss it and go, oh, well, Hydra kind of did it. So I guess the powers that be in this one have a bit more of authority.
Yeah.
Because it's sort of a collective, like the world saying, no, we want you guys to have some kind of rules about what you can and can't do. So, but sorry, Trilbee, I cut you off.
It's okay. You get the sense that Tony Stark agrees with Steve in that, look, these Sokovia Accords, they're going to restrict us, they're not good for us, but if we don't agree to them, we're either going to be forced to agree to them, or we're going to have to be made to agree to something even worse. So he's trying to make the best of a bad situation. And one moment that I loved in the film was when him and Steve are arguing, and they almost come to an agreement, and then Tony brings up Wanda. And then mentions that she's been locked up and that they don't grant visas to weapons of mass destruction because she's not a US citizen, which is so interesting. It's such an interesting dynamic, and I
don't understand why Captain America was upset about that. That made a lot of sense to me. I'm like, don't let her run around. That's going to create so many issues.
And I'll say for the first thing that let's talk about Wanda. I felt that whole jail thing, you know what I mean? Like, these are heroes. They need to be treated as such. This guy, Cap, is 100 years old. He was raised in the 40s where we marveled at our heroes. So to him, veterans, we got to salute them, right? These guys are vets. And when you're going to treat a war hero like a criminal, to him, it's like, no, this girl's a kid and she's acting in the world's best interest. We're not going to keep her locked up. You know what I mean? That's
even if Vision is cooking dinner for her.
Yeah.
Oh, that's such a good scene. But not to mention that he was there when the mistake happened, which resulted in the death of those Wakandans, because he partially thinks that he is to blame for that, or that they both share blame. But yet she's the one who has been locked up.
Because he didn't notice it, and she saved his life. He would have been blown up with crossbones there.
It's such a better inciting incident than what happens in the comics. I like it when they try and stick to the comics because there are some good moments in there, but the movie Civil War is a definitive improvement over the source material, like tenfold.
And I would have loved if they would have actually mentioned what was harmed, because you can't tell if it was just a business building or was it a hospital ward. I think
It was Wakandans. They were like having a peace treat. They were having a diplomatic mission in that building or something, and that's what it was.
Okay. Well, that makes sense because like when the Wakandan king is talking about what happened in Nigeria as if it happened in his country, I'm like, but you're not Nigeria, you're Wakanda. But that makes a lot more sense.
It was Wakandan humanitarian workers.
Right.
That makes it more. That scene makes it more impactful for me because the one thing I was always confused about is okay, how many people were killed, who was harmed, what is that building? But I think that's what they were probably talking about when Black Widow was drinking the tea and they were kind of scoping out the place. So it kind of mentions who's in that building and why it's important.
Yeah, there were the news reports that talked about it as well.
Okay, that's good.
That does make sense because I did actually think also because later on when you see at the UN and the King of Wakanda is like, we can't have these vigilantes. I was like, but you've had Black Panther doing your stuff in Wakanda for centuries. Now you turn around going, we can't have these kind of people. I thought that was hypocritical. But if these people got blew up, then it makes sense why he would say that.
And they got blown up because the Avengers don't have jurisdiction over a certain country. So it was like a diplomatic, different countries, a lot of paperwork.
Also, I'm really upset that they killed Crossbones. I really am. I don't know why, but I was just upset that they killed Crossbones like that.
They threw him away. I think they threw him away. Like, I'm like, wait a minute. Wow, you could save him for a later film. But also, I'm not too upset because they had a lot of wide shots and it was so fast paced in that first scene. But the way he was walking looked like he went number 2 in his pants. I didn't like the whole costume bit. Like, go back and watch his mannerisms and just the way he carries himself. And I'm like, that suit looks a little bit too bulky for you and it's not working well. But I would love to see him later on in the universe, but they just got rid of him too early. I'll tell you something that I need some clarity on, and I probably need to see it another time. When they went to that last facility that was housing the former Winter Soldiers, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I could have sworn when Iron Man, Cap, and Winter Soldier Bucky walk in, it shows a quick shot of a cloned Bucky, and then you never see it again. Were there clones in this film? Because I swore I saw like Bucky just kind of chilling when they open the door, and then all of a sudden, the next time you see the former Winter Soldiers, they all have bullets in their heads.
I don't think they were clones. That might have been...
Yeah, I didn't see that.
I don't remember that. That might have been just because that was the room where Bucky was kind of born in as the Winter Soldier. So maybe it was just a quick flash of his memory of being in that room before.
Probably that's what it was. And I'm like, wait a minute.
I don't think they were clones, those Winter Soldiers.
I don't think they... That's 6... those 6 soldiers they killed... I don't know. I just think that storyline is a little bit too good to get rid of this quick.
I thought that was a good twist, though, because you think they're going to walk in and have a fight with all these super Winter super soldiers, and but he's just shot them all, and he's like, no, I just wanted to get you guys here. Oh, by the way, look at this, Tony.
Oh, that's...
Even though Cap should have punched that screen and smashed it early.
Yeah, Cap should have just... If Cap knew what was coming on, he should have set up a diversion or a distraction. Look, Pepper! And just, you know what I mean?
But, he should have thrown his shield and been like, look at this!
Wow.
But I was also surprised that once like Tony Stark goes crazy and goes after Winter Soldier, I was so surprised. I didn't think... I thought Bucky would actually let him kill him because I thought that would have gone in line with what we've seen of Bucky, and even during the fight where Tony Stark is like, do you even remember them? And he goes, I remember all of them. Yeah. And there's the bit earlier on where Captain America's like, you weren't in control of what you did. And he says, but I still did it. So all of that kind of indicated to me that he would have just let Iron Man kill him because he's like, well, I kind of do deserve it, which might have been a better ending. I don't know.
That would have been perfect. And I couldn't create a better fan theory myself. Like, that would have been poetic. Actually, now that you mention it, that would have gave Cap a reason to not really want to, kind of be around Tony anymore, which is the same thing that happened anyway. But I thought that would have been a little bit more believable.
And also, like you said, Cap already has Falcon as his mate. He doesn't need 2 mates, so you can kill one of them.
you got to believe, though, that Winter Soldier's going to die in war. Black Panther's going to bring them out like when they're all getting murdered in Infinity War or something, and he'll say, "Look, I know a guy," kind of like the whole Ant-Man situation, and Black Panther. What a better place to house Bucky, because it's the home of vibranium, to where now in the back of your mind, even though he lost an arm, he didn't lose an arm. Like, they're going to find a way to repair him, and he's in a perfect place where they can repair him.
Well, there is the bit where when Bucky gets reactivated and he's breaking out of that place where he was held prisoner, where Black Panther is fighting him when he's not in the Black Panther suit, but he's got a vibranium ring. And there's a bit where he grabs the robotic arm, and there's sort of like a magnetic thing between the arm and his ring. Do you guys remember that? There's like this brief bit where he's like, "What? That?" So, yeah, it was made out of vibranium, I guess.
Well, you know what? I never caught the ring. Because I'm like, what? They zoomed in on his hand, and I'm like, wait, what happened? But now that you mentioned it, I'm like, okay, that's what it was.
Yeah, so they can rebuild his arm, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, they can, and they showed some kind of characters that Black Panther likes to run around with. And I'm pretty sure we're going to get to see more of him in the movie. Like his bodyguard that approached the Black Widow and said, "This is the last time I'm asking you to move." I'm pretty sure she's going to kick butt in Black Panther next year when it's released.
Yeah. She had to be someone. I was like, she's got to be a character. I don't know who, but she's got to be someone.
We're going to look back and we're going to be like, oh, she was in Civil War when she's kicking butt in Black Panther. I'm pretty sure she's going to kick butt. The way they introduced her, I'm like, she's somebody important. Right now I just don't know who. So I'm looking forward to that. All the characters are freaking awesome. We didn't talk about the Ant-Man thing. Let's talk about that airport scene, because I don't think we talked.
Yeah. Just to mention Ant-Man, I'm amazed that he is the influence that sort of grounds the whole film. He's the everyman. He's the sort of guy who's been looking from the outside. Like, he meets Captain America and he's like a celebrity. Like, I'm shaking your hand for too long. Wow. And then he points at Scarlet Witch. It's like, look, it's Captain America. I know you too. You're great. Thanks for thanking of me.
He was awesome. And,
thanks for thanking of me. Yeah, he says that.
I think a lot of people are going to point to the coolest thing. In my opinion, it's not the coolest thing. Just because he started moving in slow motion, and I didn't really like that. But when he actually increased his
when he becomes Giant Man.
Giant Man.
I'm
surprised they did that. I thought they'd save that for the next solo Ant-Man movie, but they did it in this. So I guess it makes sense.
Yeah, well, to me it didn't make sense, but it makes sense since I saw the execution. I'm like, wow, it lets me know they have some tricks up their sleeves for Ant-Man, and they needed to get that out of the way. So when we walk into Ant-Man, it's already going to be established that he could, go increase in size and decrease in size. But I just thought that scene was pretty cool. I didn't like the whole slow motion stuff, but I thought that was cool. I thought another thing that worked, you talk about Vision, it didn't really showcase his powers because I think he was reserved for the most part. Like, he didn't
that fight. I think he sat a lot of that fight out.
He was like the Hulk in Age of Ultron, where he's like the most powerful player in that fight, yet he's not there for much of it.
He only intervened every now and then when the scales were tipping a bit too much the other way.
I don't think, and I think that was intentional. I think when he talks about some of his logic, right, about how people with power and how they, how people with power should conduct themselves, I think some of that is, look, I'm very, very strong and I need to be able to control my powers and, things like that. He's still finding out about himself. He's a teenager to a degree when you talk about, well, I hope so, because the whole romance thing going on with him and Scarlet. But I really like the fact that we saw him more comedic elements from him, because I know Vision's never going to get a solo film, but I would hope they develop him to where he could at least hold some of his whole weight in some of his own scenes. And when they started adding layers to his character and his sarcasm, because he is Tony Stark's son, technically, I'm like, wow, I love what they're doing with this character. He's interesting. It's great watching him on screen, whether he's using his powers or not.
He's kind of like the anti-Tony Stark in many ways. Like, Tony Stark is loud and in your face. Vision is quiet and reserved. Tony Stark wears AC/DC t-shirts and the funky glasses. He wears a nice little
Ralph
little
Lauren
jumper and sweater and all that.
I think I loved why he sided with Tony, because he is looking at it from a completely logical perspective.
Yeah.
And I love the moment where he's basically saying, look guys, ever since that first Iron Man movie, we've had a lot of superheroes. I think that's why all of this stuff is happening.
Yeah. It's perfect, and it's kind of like that whole theme that was in The Dark Knight when Joker says, you created me, I created you type thing. One can't exist without the other. And when it comes to the whole logic that Tony put it in one phrase, he wants to keep one hand on the steering wheel, right? That's the term he uses in the film, to where I'd rather keep one hand on the steering wheel than let the government drive it all together, because that's what we're heading towards if we don't get a grip on things and at least start submitting to a degree. And it made perfect sense why Ultron was siding with them. I thought that was all the motivation they needed, and I thought it never needed to be brought up again. Ultron said it better himself, and Tony's faced some of the strongest villains. Whatever. What's his name?
All right, yeah.
Vision. Yeah.
I'm like, was I missing something?
No, Vision said it the best himself, and I thought Tony should have stepped up and said, "Look, when it comes to villains, I faced the most villains in this film, so it's like I kind of know what I'm talking about." Like, yeah, I'm the reason. Well, he should have never admitted.
Well,
he's
does
the reason.
with Ultron. He's like, and then we face Ultron. My bad.
My
fault. Gee, thanks, Tony. My bad.
I do love how almost everyone in this movie gets an arc, including like Scarlet Witch and Vision. I love their moments in the first act of the film where they're like talking to each other in the kitchen, and there is the sort of kind of maybe romance happening, which happens in the comics.
Yeah,
and they're just cooking together, and they're talking about each other and their powers.
Anti-Tony Stark. He's nervous around women. Tony Stark isn't. Mm-hmm. He's like the exact opposite of Tony Stark.
and I think one of the best scenes in the movie is when Hawkeye breaks out Scarlet Witch, and he knows that he's like probably more powerful than both of them, but then he gets overpowered by the Scarlet Witch, who takes over the Mind Gem, and she's bringing him to his knees, and he's saying this, like, they'll always be afraid of you. And then she just increases his density and makes him plummet through the earth. And it was glorious.
Yeah.
And some of that, some of that, I don't know if it has to do with the Mind Gem or it's a robot, artificial intelligence sensing love for the first time. Because remember what he tells Tony, I wasn't paying attention. And Tony's like, I didn't think that was possible. He said, neither did I.
Exactly,
He's in love with that girl. And you see, if you go back and watch Age of Ultron, which I've gotten the opportunity to watch recently, when he picks her up and saves her from the blast, look at the way she looks at him. There's a moment where he defends her while they're all ganging up on this the whole Sokovia Accords bill. And she looks at him when he defends her like, wow, I'm surprised. And the whole thing with the kitchen, just her looks and her mannerisms to where she's like, wow, this guy cares for me. And to me, I think it's so poetic that this girl, she grew up hating Tony Stark because of the death of her parents. And some of those hostilities, they're even present in this film because she sides quickly with Cap. And she doesn't even consider it because Tony's on the other side of the spectrum. But the one person I think she'll eventually fall in love with is kind of a replica of Tony Stark to a degree. Well, a replica or a polar opposite. However you want to look at it, there's some Tony Stark in him. So to me, that
actually
is amazing.
Come to think of it now, you made me think of something. Because there is that bit when they're all talking about the Sokovia Accords, and she's like, if we sign this, then they might come after us. And he immediately says, we wouldn't let you. Like he would. That's the quote. When she's locked up in the prison, Vision doesn't go and get her out. He should. He should just phase in there and just take her.
He is trying to protect her. He does believe he's in the right there.
Yeah.
And I think he thinks she's the safest in that prison. It's like, hey, look, right now, he cares about her well-being. So
it's not necessarily what's best for her, but that's what Vision truly believes, and that's what makes Civil War such an interesting movie in my eyes, because yes, you've got the terrific airport fight scene and the great climax and great spectacle, but it's these moments and these interactions that make the conflict interesting, that make you invested in these characters, where like you understand completely where they're coming from, even if you don't agree with it or think like not everything adds up. You emotionally engage with it, and I think that's why Civil War is such a terrific achievement in terms of this cinematic universe, because you've grown to be invested in these characters. And when Captain America and Iron Man are fighting at the end, yeah, it looks awesome, but you just want them to stop fighting because you love these characters.
That's right.
That's where I was from. My heart was in my mouth when I was watching that.
Mind you, I still did I actually liked seeing Tony Stark beat up Captain America more.
I was going to say, speak for yourself.
My dad made that shield.
Yeah. Speak for yourself, because I actually wanted him to continue pounding him. And the pro that you said, I'll actually say the other side of that token, to where we talk about how, well, I'm talking to Trilbee right now, where you said that's what make this movie so great. Is those moments that we talked about, kind of like with Vision and Scarlet Witch. I think that's actually kind of almost a knock on the movie, because the strongest moments in this film, or the most emotional ties, in my opinion, it doesn't come from your two main leads, which are Iron Man and Cap. This is a Cap movie, but Cap is the fourth most interesting character in his own movie. You know, so I felt what was going on with Wanda and Vision was interesting. I thought what was going on with Peter being a young kid scared of his powers. I thought what was going on with even the whole element about Stark not really knowing what's happening, who killed his parents. And it had been plaguing them all this time. And I thought the whole Bucky and Cap dynamic was the fourth most emotional tie I had with this movie. Still a great movie, but still a good movie. Let me say that.
Another question I had is, like, I mean, I do agree with you that I think Cap's moral compass in this was somewhat skewed because of Bucky and his friendship with Bucky. So, but I guess that's fine. Like, he doesn't have to be totally perfect all the time. People can make mistakes. You know, it kind of makes his character better in a way. But I think one thing that confused me with all this Sokovia Accord stuff was I was like, what exactly is the status of S.H.I.E.L.D.? Does it exist anymore? Does it not exist? Because it was taken out in Winter Soldier. It came back kind of at the end of Age of Ultron. But in this, apparently, it's not around anymore, because they're talking about we need General Ross to oversee these guys. But if S.H.I.E.L.D. was still around, you could just say, well, S.H.I.E.L.D. could do it. They've done it before. They could do it again. So.
General Ross mentions that the Avengers will no longer be a private organization. Yeah. They'll be run by the government. So I'm guessing after S.H.I.E.L.D. dissolved in Winter Soldier, between Winter Soldier and Age of Ultron, the Avengers became a wholly private organization.
Yep.
But here's the problem with that, though. Here's the problem.
You see that in... Oh, go ahead. I'll let you go first, Bandit. Go ahead.
Sure. The problem, though, is because if S.H.I.E.L.D. does exist, then you don't need General Ross, because you can bring them back in. But if S.H.I.E.L.D. doesn't exist anymore, that means Nick Fury actually stole that helicarrier that he used in Sokovia to get those people off the floating island. In which case, why isn't he in prison too?
I'll say this, because remember, he's not General Ross in this film. He's Secretary Ross. I think he's the Secretary of Defense. So he's like the right-hand man to the president right now.
Yeah.
You know, but at the end of Winter Soldier, it makes it clear those who weren't on that Hydra list, they got jobs with the FBI and the CIA. And Peggy's niece works for the CIA now. It shows her training with the CIA at the end of Winter Soldier. And it also shows Maria Hill going to Stark Industries, where she went into their HR department to basically interview to be the head of that private branch. And she was answering to Tony and Captain America on Age of Ultron. So they are private. They basically took the S.H.I.E.L.D. ideals and they privatized it. So that, to me, that part was understandable. They've been operating privately for Age of Ultron. The issue is and I think that's the reason why they only bring up the casualties that they've had since they've been private. Well, they brought up New York also, but now it's like, wait, who do you answer to? Because when S.H.I.E.L.D. messed up, remember Nick Fury, he was answering to secretaries at the end of Avengers.
The World Council, I think they called it.
Yeah, exactly. So right now, when these guys mess up, it's hard to get a hold of them, because it's like, no, we don't answer to anybody. We just, they're basically trying to say, no, even Nick Fury had people he said yes to, or no to, or got slapped on the wrist.
And,
you guys
they really should answer to somebody. I mean, just vision alone could blow up the world if you wanted. General Ross says,
I agree.
If I misplace 2 nukes, I'm going to get in trouble. So where's Hulk?
Which are Thor and Banner? Where are they?
It's weird he asked where's Thor, because he should know that Thor's on Asgard, because that's where he is.
I
also,
agree with
Thor wouldn't care about the Sokovia Accords because he's essentially from another world. So anyway, sorry, go on.
Not even that. I agree with Tony to where it's like, no, they do need to answer to somebody. It makes sense. What I don't agree with is them answering the Secretary Ross, because it's like he asks, "Hey, where's Hulk?" I'm like, wait, time out. You're the guy that tried to, track him all these years to steal his super soldier gamma ray. So I'm like, no, I think what they need to do is focus on getting Tony equal status to as Secretary Ross, to where basically Tony governs it. You know what I mean? So I agree that they should answer to somebody. That's why I was Team Iron Man at the beginning, at middle, and end of this film. Cap did nothing to help me see his side of the story except, hey, he's my friend and I like him, so we should be above the law. And I'm like, wait, Cap. This doesn't seem right at all.
You're right, because Tony Stark, like when he and Captain America, where he gives him those 2 pens to sort of like, and they have that bit where he almost agrees, and he's like, well, there'd have to be certain safeguards, and he's like, yeah, of course, just sign it, and then we can iron out the details later. And I was like, yeah, because like there's mercenary groups out there that sort of have their own legal stuff with them. I was like, they could write sort of a legal thing to cover that for the Avengers, but giving them a certain amount of autonomy. They could have worked that out if he had signed, but of course he didn't. And now I guess everyone's stuck in Wakanda. Hawkeye, everyone's stuck in Wakanda. Like, Captain America can't go back to America now.
Well, he broke them out. That's one. That was cool. Yeah. And one thing that we've seen in this universe is you could actually have an okay life if you're living on the run. So he lived on the run for most of Winter Soldier, and Hulk lived on the run this whole time. So it's like, okay, they could be okay. So he broke everybody out of that prison.
There is a Marvel series called Secret Avengers in the comics, so who knows, maybe that's what Cap's team are going to be from now on, now that they're broken out and essentially fugitives, which is why I think the ending of Civil War is akin to like The Dark Knight, where Tony Stark is in the Commissioner Gordon role, like, we must chase him because he wants us to. Well, I can't remember what it is. Yeah. I guess but one of the most iconic speeches in cinema history.
Well, my theory is going to be that Spider-Man's movie is called Homecoming, and they mentioned Homecoming a few times. It was in one of the words that they read out to Winter Soldier. But I think also, like, Captain America and everyone's stuck in Wakanda, and the end credit scene, like the end credit scene, was kind of hinting that Spider-Man might be involved in helping Captain America somehow. So I think Spider-Man Homecoming will be Spider-Man trying to bring Captain America home, like Homecoming sort of thing. But
could be.
Couch, doesn't Homecoming also mean some high school thing in America?
Yeah, that's the thing. Homecoming has to do with like your it's when like for football teams and or basketball teams, they play like a series of road games, and then you finally they come home to play home, and that's when the school celebrates by throwing dances, parties, etc. I don't think that it's going to be school related, but I do think that Homecoming thing has nothing to do with Cap, because they've already put Stark in this movie, and for this to be an introduction, right? And the one comic book film that's been rebooted the most is Spider-Man. I think they'll go the same route that they did with Ant-Man, to where just in case this movie fails, we're not going to tie it in too much with the rest of the other MCU films. It'll kind of be a standalone, to where if we mess up, we could always scrap it. And hey, that whole idea is done, and we could just bring this guy back for Avengers, Infinity Wars, etc. To where I think this is going to be a standalone piece. I think Homecoming means something else. I think it's a little bit too childish to make it mean a dance. But
we do know that that Iron Man's going to be in
Spider-Man 3 all over again.
and if they make Iron Man kind of his new love interest to be Aunt May, I would think that was awesome.
I thought you were suggesting that Iron Man is Spider-Man's love interest. Forget Mary Jane. Tony Stark.
that'll probably never happen in this universe. But no, I would I was thinking about that already when they cast Marissa Tomei. I'm like, wow, I would love to see Stark flirt with her, but he's with Pepper. And soon as they mentioned Pepper, kind
out of the picture,
I'm like, all right, yes, Playboy, philanthropist, whatever. You know, that a billionaire Playboy philanthropist is back. And he started hitting on Aunt May, and I love that scene.
You mentioned several times about how attractive she is.
It was
how wonderful were those scenes.
And to me, I wish this movie had more of those moments, because it did have a lot of action scenes, but some of those action scenes, because there weren't any stakes involved, it felt like, you kind of get bored, right? But it's little scenes like that, like where you're getting introduced to a new character, I thought was awesome. Like nothing's happening in this scene, but everything is happening. Also with Black Panther, you know, regardless of if he's Team Iron Man or Team Cap, you got to put everything into perspective that eventually he's going to be Team Avengers. So I wanted to see how he fits in with these other guys. And when he met Black Widow, it was like kind of chemistry right off the right off the bat, to where he's throwing jokes with her. The accent worked. I'm usually against fake accents, because Wakanda isn't a real place, so you can kind of do whatever you want with it. But I felt that his character worked. It worked, and I was just so fearful, like, because I'm like, yeah, you know, whenever you have garbage characters, you throw them in these type of movies to where we could forget about them, but we could go buy their toys, like Quicksilver. You know, but in this, they put him in this movie, and I think they're confident about the properties that they're going to be releasing soon.
Yeah, he was great. I loved Black Panther. I didn't know he had a jet either. Apparently, he has a jet.
Stealth mode. I think the newcomers, Spider-Man and Black Panther, were scene stealers. Terrific in this film. I think he had Chadwick Boseman. I've been trumpeting his horn for years. He's been so great in all these other smaller films, and to see him finally arrive, it's so vindicating. And I think one of the coolest moments in Civil War is when he meets Captain America, and he's like, "Captain." He's so cool.
It's so cool how he scratches up that shield, and Cap's like, is that suit made of vibranium, or you're really, really strong? You know what I mean? So I thought that was great. And not only that, this guy's like 40, he's like 43. Like Chadwick.
Is he really?
This guy I'm talking about, when you talk, his story should be motivation for anybody in Hollywood right now, to where same thing with Iron Man. Like I felt Iron Man, like when I first heard rumors they were making an Iron Man movie, RDJ wasn't really on top of the list, but this kind of put him back into those Hollywood good graces, to where he's kind of not A-list, but he's if he's not A-list, he's like a A- list actor now, you know, to where same thing happened with Chadwick, to where this guy's been off of the radar for years, and he's 43, 42 years old. All right, 39 still. You know, that's still amazing.
Still,
yeah.
You know, I really love that bit where Falcon, Winter Soldier, and Captain America are all in that tiny Volkswagen.
Can you move the seats? Nope.
Can you move the seat?
And she's like, I don't think you understand the concept of a getaway vehicle.
That's the second time he's stolen the car, and I think it's a nod to the 90s, that horrible 90s.
Oh yeah.
I need to throw up.
And then they come out, they're like, "You okay?" And he runs over, jumps in the car, and drives off. He does it like twice in the movie.
Go ahead. We interrupt Trilbee. It looks like
can we talk about Spider-Man for a bit, and just how great Tom Holland was with Robert Downey Jr.?
I'm not a Spider-Man fan, but I like this Spider-Man more than any of the other ones we got.
Just the scene where Tony Stark knows full well that he's Spider-Man, and he's trying so hard to deny it for a long time.
And not only that, I always felt like with Tony, right? He's a genius, right? He has this brain, and it's so ironic that he's the one that discovered the mind gem, because his mind is like the most valuable thing to the Avengers, in my opinion. But I wanted to see him mentor someone, you know, an up and coming person, and we got a chance to see that in Iron Man 3, and it was a little bit too comical, to where you kind of saw how he could pass on his technical traits to a up and coming scientist. That dynamic that we saw in Iron Man 3, we're going to see with Spider-Man, to where it's a mentor-mentee role, And it looks like Spider-Man idolized this guy because he would not listen to Cap no matter what. Cap was like, "Hey, he told me you'd say that. He told me to go for your legs." And it's like, wow, Tony's not only schooling this kid on weaponry but also just the tactical part of it. And I was like, wow, yes, Spider-Man. To me, Spider-Man was my favorite character from the cartoon series that were popular in the 90s. Because, X-Men had one, Iron Man had one. But when he came onto the big screen, I wasn't really feeling Toby like that. So I've always felt like it's just been a lost cause with that character. They didn't know how to make it work.
I also liked in that interaction between the two of them when he's talking to him in his room and all that sort of stuff. He's like, "So what are you, like Spiderling, Spider Boy?" But then when Tony Stark goes to leave and he webs his hand to the door, he's like, "Okay, Spider-Man." It's like, then he calls him Spider-Man. He's like, "Could you get this off me, please?"
Mark, that right there, that film coming up, Homecoming. Oh my God, I'm calling
really looking forward to that.
It's going to break, because even the bad Spider-Man movies, they had box office success, right? So now that may very well break the 207 mark set by the Avengers.
And Michael Keaton's a bad guy in the movie.
Oh,
that's gonna be
that never happened. He's pulled out of that film.
Oh, really? What a shame. He would have been great.
Yeah. So, but
Spider-Man's banter in this film. Like when he's like when he's fighting with Cap and he's throwing the shield, like, that does not obey the laws of physics.
Yeah, I love it how he says that. Yeah,
see, there were so many jokes getting thrown around. You got to almost go back you have to watch it a second time just to catch the dialogue that would and the banter that was happening between these guys. But like when you talk about scene stealers, he's definitely one. He had like the whole thing with him, this guy, even when he was fighting Winter Soldier, dude, you have an arm made of metal? That's awesome. And I'm like, this is amazing. So it just, to me, it puts you. He's almost breaking, like, kind of he's breaking the fourth wall, because he's saying everything that we think anyway. So it's like an unofficial fourth wall that he's breaking. When he talks, he's saying stuff that you always think of when you see some of these characters. And I'm like, oh my God, that's a great tool to have for him to helm his own movie.
Actually, and when Giant Man's stomping around. Has anyone seen Empire Strikes Back? Let's say, Tony, how old is this guy?
Oh my God. No, catch the first part of that quote. Hey, anybody remember this old movie? And it's just...
yeah.
It really starts making you check a calendar for a little bit. I'm like, oh my God.
I was sitting there and I was like, that's not an old movie. Oh.
Yeah.
And when Giant Man is around and Iron Man's just flying around saying, okay, anybody else on our side got any wonderful power abilities that they want to talk about?
If you walked into this movie, I don't care if you were Team Cap or Team Iron Man. I think you had a feeling that Team Iron Man, they had the advantage, and it was definitely skewed left. But these Captain America players, I felt all but one matchup. I think Iron Man and Cap were tied, but every other matchup, I felt like there were 6 guys, so I felt 4 out of 6 of those matchups belonged to Iron Man, and that was not the case when you saw this movie.
Yeah, and
that's right. If Vision had gone full on, then it wouldn't have even been a contest.
There was one moment because we knew that who was going to be on Team Iron Man and Team Cap, but when they revealed that Ant-Man and Hawkeye would be on the same team, everyone was waiting for the moment when he's going to ride one of the arrows.
Yeah.
When Ant-Man is going to be on the arrow. It's like, you ready? I think so. I'm ready.
I love the bit where he goes to Captain America. He's like, throw this at this. And he throws it and it explodes. He's like, oh, I thought that was a water truck.
War Machine. It shows everybody was holding back, because when War Machine got blown up, he was like, really? And it was like kind of a surprise, because where they were like, I thought if you guys really want to fight that way, let's do it. And that's when they turned it up a notch. I think the only 2 people that were going 100% the whole time, 3 people. Wanda even said it. Miss Maximoff says, hey, you were holding back your punches. Don't play. Let's take these guys out. So she was one. I felt Winter Soldier could either go 100 or he could go 0%. So he was at 100%, and he wasn't holding back his punches. And the other person was Black Panther, because he was fighting with vengeance in his heart.
Oh,
yeah, he was not playing around.
Spider-Man as well, because he was trying to impress Tony.
Yeah,
Spider. And the one great quote that I liked. I didn't even see it coming, because both of those guys being from New York, he was like, hey, you did good, kid. Where are you from? Queens. And he was like,
oh, I should have known.
Yeah.
I do think that, though. He throws the shield at the walkway and makes it collapse on Spider-Man. It's like, how do you know he has the strength to lift that? You could have just crushed him.
Oh, that could have backfired so badly.
Yeah.
Oh, God,
I look forward to the how it should have ended cartoon where Spider-Man just gets flattened.
It was a couple of, because even when you see what the Iron Man suits could handle, when you talk about what happened to War Machine, it was unfortunate, because I'm like, I've seen Tony Stark fall from higher heights than that, and still, not still managed to have his spine intact. But that was a little unfortunate. Maybe the blast from Vision was what took out his legs, not necessarily the fall itself.
That's true, but I guess Tony Stark does have main character powers. So
yeah, that too.
I did like, because when one of my friends last night we saw it, he hadn't seen Ant-Man, so when Ant-Man shows up, he's like, "Who's that?" And but then there's bit later in the prison where Tony Stark's like, "Who are you?" And he's like, "Come on, man."
And when War Machine lands on the ground and Tony goes to inspect the body, Falcon lands and he just blasts him away.
Yeah, he just shoots him.
Oh, that part. Yeah, that part was
a bit
awesome.
of dark humor.
The only other thing I've got sort of written as a note was something that I thought they were going to set up for a reveal later, but they didn't, is when they had that bit with the de-aged Robert Downey Jr. in the hologram thing saying goodbye to his parents. I was like, I think that's a setup for something later on. Like maybe they'll use some hologram trickery. Like maybe like Captain America will murder Tony Stark and we'll be like, oh my God, he finally killed him. And then it will turn out to be a hologram or something. Or they'll do something like that to like get a confession out of the guy or something like that. But no, it wasn't. It was just kind of there.
Yeah, I don't know.
Up Tony Stark's relationship with his parents and all the regrets he has, which is why he harbours that massive grudge at the end. It's to set up him going against the Winter Soldier at the end.
Yeah, I guess the technology itself was just for the sake of showing the exposition.
It was to show off to potential shareholders how great their de-aging technology is in these movies.
I don't know if that's the only thing that scene did, because I think if you look below the layers, it also shows you, because that technology basically kind of goes into your mind, and it's supposed to be used for psychology. But I also think it shows that Tony Stark's been busy studying that mind gem.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, so when Thanos arrives, remember we only have, there's only 2 Infinity Stones we haven't seen in this universe. I think they're going to release the Soul Stone in Doctor Strange, or at least some type of stone, because the only ones that we haven't seen, I think, are Soul and Time. So that has to arrive in either Wakanda would be a nice place that could support an Infinity Stone, or Thor Ragnarok. I just doubt they would give 2 Infinity Stones to Thor, because Thor already had another one, the Reality Stone.
Unless if Thanos already has a couple of them, or he's been doing them as he's been going around these movies.
I doubt it, because when you saw that glove, it was empty. So,
yeah, but
that's true. But Doctor Strange in the comics he does hold on to the Soul Gem, I think it is.
And that's the one I think it's going to show up in his film. But if Thanos has, you know what? I scratch that. Thanos has to have something, because if he doesn't, wow, like he's losing big time. Like you're supposed to, you don't have anything?
He really hasn't done much so far, has he, Thanos?
He's literally sitting on that throne day after day.
He's just pooping all the time on that throne, just waiting for everyone to show up.
No, but I really think that you got humans starting to play with these Infinity Stones, and to me that just screamed. I'm like, where did Tony get that technology from? And I'm like, okay, he's been playing with Vision's Mind Stone. To where yeah. And that's the only reason why I'm scared. Like whenever somebody dies, they never truly die because you have that whole kind of like Deathly Hallows type Harry Potter vibe with the Infinity Stones to where if you bring them together, you could cheat death. So I think Infinity Wars, we're going to see a couple of people die, but they'll be brought back in that sequel.
Well, there's the moment in the Infinity War comic book series where Thanos gets all the all the gems together, and to appease death, because he's in love with death. He clicks his fingers, and then half of the population of the universe just die instantly. I have a feeling that's going to be the cliffhanger for Infinity War, and then at the end of that comic book series, they managed to use the gems to bring everybody back. Which might be a cop-out, I don't know, but that's how the comics went.
Yeah, I don't call it a cop-out in this case, because it's just like the whole Harry Potter vibe to where they've established, hey, you get this, you could cheat death. It's almost foreshadowing that, okay, somebody's going to cheat death in this film. I want to see if they got the balls to actually make death an actual character, but I don't think...
I think they do it, yeah. I mean, because once we get into Doctor Strange, we're going to get
that's what I was going to say.
We can go Strange.
Yeah, once Doctor Strange steps in the scene, anything could be greenlit. And also, even that Phantom, what do they call it? That place where Ant-Man went when he was when he shrunk to. Yeah, even the Phantom. Yeah, I was going to say it right then. Even in the Phantom Zone, that opens up that whole idea to where reality is only reality.
I will find him. Yeah.
I will find him. Is that what was it called? I can't remember.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
The Quantum Realm.
Quantum Realm, that's it.
That sounds more believable. There we go.
Yeah. Wow. Oh, that's another video for your couch. You've got how Ant-Man and Man of Steel are the exact same movie.
Oh my God.
Good luck with that one. Jeez.
We'll collaborate. Me and you.
No, I have a theory that every DC movie is just like every movie ever made. Like you could actually. The good ones and the bad ones. You could point lines to, like, whenever I'm kind of lost and I can't find what Transformers equals, I'm like, okay, let me just find a DC movie and I'm pretty sure it'll tie in. Man of Steel is like every comic book movie ever made. That's the problem with DC. They throw everything at you but the kitchen sink.
Well, actually, I'll tell you what, Couch, there's a little channel about 2,000 or so subs called Undeleted Scenes, where they make like animated stuff, like continuing scenes in movies and stuff. And he did one about why Batman v Superman is like Wizard of Oz. And there's so many comparisons there. There really is. I'll link it to you when we're done.
Cool.
Right. But I just to sort of wrap up, I thought I wanted to say that, yeah, Couch, you've actually turned me around, and I really do believe that Captain America seriously messed up in this movie. He didn't save Winter Soldier. He didn't save Bucky. He ended up getting frozen anyway. He tore apart the Avengers. Half of them are stuck in Wakanda on the other side of the world now. Like, Hawkeye's probably not going to see his family for a really long time now, thanks to him. And he didn't stop the Sokovia Accords. I'm sure they still got signed. I'm sure they're still going to have government restrictions. So, way to go, Captain America. You really made everything so much worse for everybody. Yeah.
And let's not get it twisted. I mean, they're going to find a way to get out of Sokovia, because don't forget, Captain America breaks them out. Did you miss that part?
No.
At the very end.
Yeah, he breaks them out. Like, Tony's reading the letter, and then security starts going crazy, and next thing you see is he looks up and you see his reflection kind of looking at the jail cells. Yeah. So he does he gets them out. But still, to even get to that point, that's your leader, Avengers? Oh my God. When Thanos comes into play, I hope they can show a little bit more teamwork than that.
Yeah, that's probably what's going to happen. Like, by the time Thanos shows up, everyone will be like, you know what, who cares about whatever laws we had looking for you guys? Just beat up Thanos.
Well, I don't even think when Thanos comes to town, Infinity Wars, I don't think laws are going to matter, because I think, like you said, the snap of the finger, half of the population is going to be dead anyway.
Yeah.
So it's going to be something to where, look, I don't like you. That guy killed my mother. But we have a common enemy. Let's fix this up like right now. So I'm hoping that I'm not underwhelmed, because when I thought about Civil War, I thought it was going to be a little bit, the stakes were going to be higher. but that just kind of shows me I need to calm down my expectations for Infinity War, because they're calling it Infinity War, but it may very well be an infinity dispute, just like this movie, you know. So
an infinity disagreement.
Yeah.
Mind you, I'm looking forward to seeing the Avengers and Guardians of the Galaxy meeting up. That'd be really cool.
Yeah.
They keep trying to hide it and saying it's not going to happen, but you know what?
It's going to happen. Yeah.
In this universe, I wouldn't be surprised if they break up those scenes to where you have the Guardians kind of protecting one side of the universe and they're getting whooped. And by the time Thanos comes back, because don't forget, actually, stop it. The way the Guardians are going to get to Earth, they're going to use the Tesseract, the gem that was in the Tesseract that was on what was in the Tesseract? What gem was that?
It was the mind gem.
No, it wasn't the mind gem. The mind gem was in Loki's scepter, and the Tesseract was the space gem, which means you could travel from any point.
That's right.
Oh yes, it was. Yeah. God, it's getting hard to follow.
And the Tesseract is on Asgard now.
Yeah,
the mind
so that
gem's
means
on Earth, and the power gem is on that weird planet from Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yep. So that means Guardians of the Galaxy are always moments away or just seconds away from joining the Avengers because of the space gem.
Well, they've been filming Guardians of the Galaxy, and they've actually got some photos leaked of them filming, and there seem to be a few Earthbound scenes. Whether or not it's flashbacks to when Peter Quill was a kid or something, or if they do come to Earth, it remains to be seen. But like you said, they could easily just pop over on a whim.
Yeah, because if Star-Lord was just picked up casually by the Raiders, he could just head back to Earth whenever he wants. Yeah.
And not
go
only
drinking
that,
with Ant-Man, they'd be good friends.
He's gonna be so disappointed in today's music. Yeah. He's gonna be crushed. It's all terrible.
They're going to bring that.
He's gonna be like, "Where's MC Hammer? I thought he'd have such a huge career."
Also, too. Come on, Groot, we're going home. We're leaving.
If there's any rumors, I would expect probably rumors over the next year for Thor Ragnarok comes out next year, right?
Yes.
Yeah. If somebody needs to show up in that movie, it has to tie that universe with Guardians of the Galaxy, because it makes sense. Because if the space gem is on Asgard, that's the best way to kind of introduce Peter Quill and those guys to keep going back and forth to Earth or different realms is with the space gem. So if somebody needs to be in Thor Ragnarok, I'm hearing rumors of Thor. I don't know if that's been confirmed, but it would be nice to see Peter Quill in there as well.
All right. So final thoughts, guys.
How awesome was it when Tony Stark's vision wasn't working, his helmet wasn't working, so it's like, yeah, I'm just gonna eyeball it, and he does it.
He was pretty accurate.
Yeah, he was pretty good. Although unless he was aiming for Winter Soldier with the rocket and he accidentally hit.
I think he was aiming for the lid.
Yeah, he was, and he used the dark side of the Force, and it prevailed for him. But as for final thoughts for me, like I said, this movie is good, not great. Doesn't mean you should have a bad time. It is easily a top 5 movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. You're going to watch these characters that you love. You're going to love them more. The people that you love, you'll love more. And the people that you like, you're going to love. So I think that's a nice way to leave the theater watching an MCU film. I think for this to kick off a phase of a universe. In the past, we've seen Iron Man 3, and now Civil War kick off phases of a universe. I think it means more things to come. I'm not screaming until I see a trailer for Infinity Wars, but I'm definitely screaming for Homecoming. I can't wait for that, and I can't wait for Black Panther. And if you haven't seen this movie yet, go ahead and watch it, and you're going to feel the same way.
Agreed. It's a crowd pleaser, definitely. Take a bunch of your friends, you'll love it. And how long has it been out in America now, Couch?
It's only been here for like 4 days, man. We're so late to the ball.
Okay, cool. So there's plenty of time, yeah. Here it's starting to wind down.
I've been saying this for a while. If Marvel ever make a Captain Britain movie, I think it's only fair that you guys get it first.
It would be so fair.
Gets Captain America first.
I was worried we wouldn't get to talk, because we were sending some emails back and forth, and I just felt like, Bandit, like, I'm like, oh my God, this guy sees the movie like 4 weeks before I do. He's going to grow impatient. It's like, he's going to review it without me. But just thanks for having me on, man.
Hey guys, just so you know, because the podcast went for kind of a long time, Couch Tomato wasn't able to stay with us through the whole thing. So the next, like the homework and listener questions goes back to being myself and Trilbee because we recorded it after he left. But stick towards the end because he does say goodbye there. We recorded a goodbye and we edited that in. So just so you know, it switches back without Couch, but he shows up again at the end to say goodbye. Okay.
This week, each one of you has a homework assignment. You're going to go out, you're going to start a fight with a total stranger. You're going to start a fight, and you're going to lose.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, here is our homework section where we cover some stuff that you guys have recommended to us or that we recommend to each other. And this week, Trilbee, you said you saw a certain movie for the first time ever.
Yeah, no beating around the bush. I saw Legally Blonde. the iconic movie starring Reese Witherspoon. This was basically, I've not been able to get out much to the cinema this past week because of work, so we're just going through Netflix, and then my girlfriend's like, oh, you should watch Legally Blonde, I have a feeling you'd like it. She wasn't wrong. I did like it.
Really?
No shame. Well, I'm the type of guy who also likes Mean Girls, so I don't discriminate.
Movie, mind you.
Yeah, I don't discriminate against genres. I just love film. It's a good film is a good film, and Legally Blonde, not great. It's a good film. Like Reese Witherspoon's a lot of fun in it. This is Selma Blair, like 10 years before I saw her in Hellboy, and she's not aged a day. I want to know what virgin blood she's been drinking. And oddly enough, I actually did get really, really invested. It's about this fashion designer who's got like a 4.0 grade point average, and she's kind of like a ditzy blonde, but she's really, really intelligent in some respects. And she is in love with this guy, and he dumps her because he's like, oh, I want to become a famous lawyer and I need a certain type of girlfriend or a certain type of wife. So in order to win him back, she applies to Harvard Law School and she gets in. And it's basically just, what if a female blonde person became a lawyer? It's not great in terms of morals there.
Are we allowed to use the B word, as in bimbo?
Well, she's not really a bimbo. She has self-respect, and it is basically the sort of plot where, of course, she's going to learn that the guy who dumped her wasn't the best thing for her, and that she should make her own path, and that she doesn't need a guy. And it ticks all of those right boxes, but it does it in a really fun way. There's a fun subplot where she tries to help out Jennifer Coolidge, who's got this crush on this mailman. And it's got a decent cast and a few really fun sequences and some fun set pieces. There's an adorable dog. I'll just leave it at that. The dog that's just like all over the poster. And what's interesting is that it got adapted into a Broadway musical a few years after the film. And just watching the movie, I've never seen the musical. I don't know what's in it, but I can just tell, oh yeah, this scene is going to be a massive dance sequence. This scene is going to be where the song kicks in. It feels like it's a musical without any music in it. It follows this really strange structure, but oddly enough, I did enjoy it, and I'm not going to say it's a guilty pleasure. I just think it's kind of well written. There's an interesting mystery, this legal case that she has to settle. Reese Witherspoon is good. She does really well here. This was a Golden Globe nominated performance for her. It really is her breakout role. This movie is the reason you know that Reese Witherspoon exists, that she is a thing. There was a sequel called Legally Blonde 2, Red, White and Blonde, which I've not seen. It's not on Netflix, so unfortunately I couldn't have a Legally Blonde marathon, which is a shame, I think. But it was a fun time. I have no regrets seeing Legally Blonde, and now I'm just going to leave the podcast forever because I've just lost all of my self-respect, I'm assuming. It was fun.
No, it was an alright movie, yeah.
Yeah, have you seen it?
Yeah, I have.
What do you think? Are we just going to learn that this is your favourite movie?
That much about him. And I think it's hilarious that she was also Christian Bale's girlfriend in American Psycho.
Oh, Reese Witherspoon.
Wasn't she? Wasn't that Reese Witherspoon?
In American Psycho?
Yeah.
I'm Wikipediaing as hard as I can. Yeah, she was an American Psycho. I don't know if it was. She was an American Psycho. So I think you might be right there.
There you go. I just find that very funny.
Yeah, it was a year before Legally Blonde came out.
Well, I also saw a movie that you recommended that I see, Trilbee, on Netflix.
Legally Blonde 2?
Oh, God, I have to put that in homework now. No, in my homework I have Creep, which I saw, and The Raid, which I've been trying to watch. It's actually kind of hard to find, but it's not on Netflix. The second one is, but not the first one. But yes, you recommended a while back I watched a found footage movie called Creep, and I watched it on Netflix.
That was Trey who recommended that.
Was it? I thought it was you. Oh,
I've never seen Creep.
Oh, well.
Have I?
Well, let me just say, I highly recommend it. It's actually really, really good. And for some reason on Netflix, it only had like 2 stars. It's worth way more than 2 stars. So I'll give you a brief rundown. I know you hate found footage, but this is actually okay.
I'd rather be caught in a fight with Vision with Hawkeye on my team than watch a found footage movie.
Yeah,
that's some Civil War stuff.
Even worse, you'd rather be Hawkeye. Ugh.
I'd rather
that sucks.
I would rather be Hawkeye than watch a found footage movie.
Well, this found footage movie called Creep. It starts as I won't spoil the whole thing, obviously, but it starts as there's a dude who's like a film student, eager for money. So there's a job for a guy who wants to record like video logs for his kid, and because when the guy shows up at the house, the dude's like, "Yeah, I've got cancer. I'm going to die of cancer, so I want to record these video logs for my kid, so that after I'm gone, the kid can sort of, see me." And you're like, "Oh, sounds reasonable," but it just gets creepier and creepier and creepier and creepier. Like the first thing he wants to do is like, he's like, "Right, let's have a bath." So he's like pretending he's like having a bath with his kid, and he's like, "Woo, you're getting the soap on your head," and he's got this like imaginary kid. The guy's just like, "This is getting kind of weird." But yeah, and it gets creepier, creepier, creepier. And it kind of turns into a little bit of a Cape Fear stalkerish kind of movie. But what's interesting and different about it is it kind of has that stalkerish quality to it, but it's, of course, all found footage. And but it's weird because it's 2 guys, but not like in a gay way, but it's like it's kind of like a twisted version of like the Cable Guy where he just wants to be his friend, but takes it way too far and it gets creepier and creepier. And yeah, I found it really interesting to see that dynamic between 2 men, but one stalking the other one. But no, it's really suspenseful too. And yeah, it's funny because I was watching it on Netflix and like just moved into a new house. And when you move into a new house, you have to get used to the noises of a new house.
Yeah.
Like here I've because I moved from the country into like more of like the town, so I can hear like next door when they close a door or a car comes in, and I'm not used to hearing that. So like if I hear a car start, I think someone's stealing my car out front, stuff like that. Or like as the house like cools down and makes these creaking noises and stuff like that. And it was the house started making those noises that I wasn't used to right at a part in the movie where the creepy guy disappears in this house. And it's just the bit where, like, the guy's searching through the house looking for the guy, and it's just silence. And he's going through, like, at night time, he's using the light from the camera, and he's like, "Joseph? Joseph?" And there's this creaking and all that behind me. So maybe that added to my enjoyment of watching it. But yeah, I recommend it. It's a pretty good movie. Check it out on Netflix. For our listeners, if you're out there, it's worth a look.
God, that's such an interesting double feature. Legally Blonde and Creep.
But I see what Trey is talking about. Yeah, it's like the creep levels just sort of slowly grow and grow and grow, and you're like, "Oh man!" And it's a good ending too, a really good ending.
Okay, I have to try and check it out.
Excuse me, I'd like to ask you a few questions.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, time for listener questions, and yes, I did forget to post a thing on the Facebook and the Twitters asking for your questions. I'm really sorry, guys, but you can just post visitor There's a feature on the page where you can just post stuff to the page, even if you don't. So anyway, you don't have to wait for us to post if you do want to post a question. But apologies, guys. We don't have many, but Trilbee here has jumped in and asked some questions on his personal Facebook, and we got some responses. But so to answer to the one question that we got so far on the page, which is, here's a good question. Why did you forget to ask for listed questions? Well, aren't you Lestrange?
Human error.
It's because I'm an idiot. That's why.
Yeah. The Trilbee Reviews fan base have stepped in to fix the wrongs of Bandit. Actually,
Reviews.
It was like, I put on my Facebook, hey guys, myself and Bandit are recording the Movie Mania podcast right now. We don't have any questions, post them. And they had like a 10-minute window, and we've got like 7 or 8 questions already, so good stuff. We've got two separate questions, but it's kind of the same thing. We've got Tom, I'm going to butcher this name, Wisniewski, saying, with the numerous video game-based movies being released this year, do you think that there is a potential market for them, or that they are all doomed to fail? And leading on from that, Dean Jones asks, if Warcraft and Assassin's Creed are big critical and financial successes, what video games and or series would you like to see film adaptations? So basically we've had like Ratchet and Clank come out, that has bombed spectacularly. We've got Angry Birds coming out in like a week, and it's getting surprisingly good reviews. And then we've got Warcraft and Assassin's Creed. So do you think that all of these video game movies may cannibalize each other, Bandit?
No, I don't think so at all, because I think trying to make a good and profitable video game movie is the Loch Ness Monster of movies. Mm-hmm. Everyone's been searching for it for so long, no one's ever really found it. Many say it can't be found, that it doesn't really exist. But I'm convinced that this particular Loch Ness Monster, being video game movies that are good, is out there. So I think it's really like an untapped resource, and that once like, I'm thinking Assassin's Creed is actually going to be pretty good. I reckon once that comes out, it will open the floodgates and we'll get lots of really good movies. I don't know, but what do you think, Trilbee?
Well, do you not have much faith for Warcraft, which comes out in like 3-4 weeks' time?
Nah, it looks crap.
Really? Controversial. No, I don't think it looks terrible. There's just not a lot here that I'm really invested in watching for Warcraft. I'll check it out just to see if Duncan Jones is able to do a big blockbuster. But yeah, I think that because with the exception of Ratchet and Clank and Angry Birds, the video game movies coming out this year are very different. Like you won't be mistaking Assassin's Creed for Warcraft or Warcraft for Angry Birds. Even though it is two sides of weird creatures fighting each other with Warcraft and Angry Birds. Just one of them just uses catapults, the other one uses eagles. They're all the same. Angry Birds and Warcraft are the same movie, guys. But yeah, they feel very, very different. It's not like when you get, all of the X-Men are fighting each other, or all of the Marvel Avengers are fighting each other, or Batman and Superman are fighting each other. There's not much risk of people getting confused, so I don't think, I think they can all exist in the same space. Whether or not they'll all be good and make a lot of money remains to be seen, but like I said, Angry Birds is getting good reviews, so it'll be interesting to see how that performs. That could be a big success if it's able to get some momentum going. Are there any?
They could just do like they can make a BioShock Infinite movie, and they could just literally just take the story from that and just film it and just do it. I mean, how's it any different than if you're doing like book adaptations? You're just taking the story from there and filming it. Like Hollywood, they love quick, easy ways to make money with built-in audiences. There's your solution right there. Just do a Skyrim movie. Actually, that'd probably be expensive trying to do that.
yeah.
You could do a Grand Theft Auto movie. You know, there's so much you could do. Just take the story and just put it in.
But what's really interesting about video games and turning them into movies is that when you get a book or a comic book, you are adding the visuals, you're adding the motion. Whereas with video games, you are actually taking something away when you do the film adaptation. You're taking away the gameplay and the interactivity. So you've got to find some way to compensate for that, which is why, like Ratchet and Clank, I'm told, I've not seen the film, I want to see it just out of interest, but apparently they just take a load of video game cutscenes and just slap them into a film, and that result hasn't really worked out. So maybe just taking the script of a well-known game and just filming it is not 100% the way to go. Maybe use it as a template, but you need some other elements in there to justify it, because if you've seen Skyrim, if you've played the game, you'll have seen the story. You'll need something to get you in the movie theater other than, I don't have to press any buttons to kill people now. It is going to be tough, but I think that this year is the one that's going to make or break it. We've got Angry Birds, Warcraft, Assassin's Creed, and then if at least one of those is a financial hit, you're going to see Uncharted get off the ground. You're probably going to see a Nintendo cinematic universe where Mario and Pokemon and Zelda and everybody beat each other up senseless, which I would love to see. But yeah, so that would be interesting. Are there
Now that I think about it, maybe the reason adapting video games into movies is so difficult is because video games are such an individual experience. Like, especially with games where they're like open world and you can sort of choose the way you will play and the way you will do it. So everyone's individual experience in a game can be different, but movies are a collective group experience. So I guess it would be hard to sort of please everyone because everyone has a different way of playing, a different way of experiencing the game. Maybe that's part of it.
Okay, let's move on to the next. Let's move on to the next question.
Very good question. Yeah.
Oh, actually, there's a little bit. I forgot to finish Dean Jones's question. Are there any video games or franchises that you want to see get a film adaptation?
Yeah, I'd like to see BioShock Infinite.
BioShock Infinite.
That'd be great.
Yeah. I'd prefer to see Infinite than the original. Actually, I think the original BioShock would be pretty cool. I think that would be good.
Yeah, that'd be freaky.
The issue is that making a Lara Croft movie, you're basically just making Indiana Jones. If you make Uncharted, you're making Indiana Jones. If you make Skyrim, you're kind of making Game of Thrones or Lord of the Rings. If you're making Resident Evil, you're making Dawn of the Dead. Video games have drawn so much from movies that you really need an original property to justify making a film adaptation. Otherwise, you'd just be making a poor man's Indiana Jones or Dawn of the Dead. So I'd love to see something truly original, like BioShock or something like that. Yeah, I think BioShock is the way to go. That would be awesome. Right, let's go to the next question from Aidan Cross. Best movie musical. Are you a musical man, Bandit?
Not really.
And
maybe it's recency
Blonde,
bias.
The musical.
Maybe it's recency bias, but because the last thing I saw was Jungle Book, and I think that was best movie musical because it wasn't very musical.
Yeah. Well, it's sort of like, is it a musical because it had 2 songs? Is it a live action film because it's only got 1 actor? Jungle Book crosses all the boundaries.
And worst movie musical, a lot of them I haven't seen. I haven't seen Les Miserables with Russell Crowe singing throughout it. I haven't seen Mamma Mia.
Les Miserables. Have you heard that Cats is getting adapted into a film and the director of Les Mis, Tom Hooper, is directing it?
Oh, really?
That'll be
maybe
not good.
Yeah. What do you think, Trilbee? What's your favorite?
Favorite? I love movie musicals. I love Guys and Dolls. I love Singing in the Rain. Oliver. Because I'm a theatre student, so I've watched a load of these movie musicals. I've grown up with all of this. And it's a genre that's really gone out of favour in the past 10, 15 years. I think the last big movie musical was Rent. Outside of animation, because Disney do musicals all the time, like Frozen and Tangled. But live action, I think the last big one was Rent, and that was done by Christopher Columbus, and he kind of messed up that adaptation. That is a bad adaptation, because Rent is an opera. It's all singing all the time. But instead he turned it into a generic musical where there's like 10, 15-minute interludes of talking between all of the songs. And those segments just have no energy. The movie dies when it's not singing. And it's really... And the most emotional scene in the musical is actually a deleted scene on the DVD. The pivotal moment of that musical is out of the film. And when Christopher Columbus in the commentary says, I took it out because it was really sad. I don't want to upset the audience members. And it's like, in Rent, you're dealing with people dying of AIDS and HIV and people of these relationships breaking up. They're gonna be sad. Why are you doing this? It's like, I didn't want to make them sad. It's like, they're dying of AIDS. It's already sad. So I think in recent memory, that is one of the worst movie musicals. I'm sure there are worse ones out there, but that's the one that stung the most. But yeah, actually, best.
Now that I'm going to
go for Guys and Dolls. Guys and Dolls is the best movie musical. Marlon Brando and Frank Sinatra. It's like, oh my God, they're a great pair.
Yeah. Actually, now that I've had time to think about it, for best movie musical, I'd go with West Side Story. Boy, boy, crazy boy, stay cool boy. That's good. Don't get hot, 'cause man, you've got some high times ahead. Do. That's all right. Yeah, that was
good. Yeah. Right.
We've got rocket in your pocket. Stay cool boy.
Oh, you know what else is good? Grease. Grease is good.
Yeah, Grease as well. That's right. Yeah. Do you reckon they float to heaven at the end of that movie?
I reckon, they just went off a ramp, and the audience never saw the ramp, which means they're coming back down. They are crashing. I think that's what happened. Anyway, right. Edward Sweet says, rank the Tarantino movies in time for Hateful Eight DVD. I won't ask you to rank all of their movies, but do you have a favorite Tarantino film?
Oh man, there's so many I love. It's hard to really pick one out.
I'll start with my favorite is Inglourious Bastards. I think that I have a bit of a bias because it was the first one that I really watched all the way through at an age where I could appreciate Tarantino films. Because you show Pulp Fiction to a 12-year-old, he'll just be like, "Ooh, the swords." But I'm thinking Kill Bill. Oh, I'm tired. It's midnight in the UK. Pulp Fiction doesn't have any swords. I don't even know what I'm saying. But yeah, I love Inglourious Bastards. I think it has one of the best structures. It's got one of the opening with Christoph Waltz, and the Jews are hiding under the floorboards, and it's absolutely terrific.
Yeah.
And Brad Pitt.
That's such a great scene. It's so well written, and I love how Hans Lander, he'll even the way when he switches from speaking French to English and back and forth, there's a reason for it because he suspects they're under the floorboards. It's so well written. Yeah, I love that movie too.
I think it's one of the best opening scenes.
Yeah. It's such a great movie.
And one thing about Inglourious Bastards is that it feels like a very important film because it pretty much introduced the world to first of all Michael Fassbender. It was his breakout role, and also right. to
down
Daniel
with
Bruhl.
Hitler, all the way down, sir.
And Daniel Bruhl, who is Baron Zemo in Civil War, and he's also he's in Rush, and he's terrific. I think it's amazing that in Inglourious Bastards,
Zolla in that, isn't he?
He is, yeah. He's playing the sniper in this Nazi propaganda film, Nation's Pride, and I think it's amazing that film was meant to be a sort of, in Tarantino's mind, sort of a parody of propaganda films and stuff. And then America actually ended up making that movie, and they called it American Sniper, but they did it completely seriously. I think that's an interesting observation. I think Jackie Brown doesn't get as much love as it should. And I saw Reservoir Dogs for the first time in a long time, like a month or two ago, and that really holds up. That's really fun.
Did you know that Quentin Tarantino's character in that movie, when Michael Fassbender was on set for Inglourious Basterds, he said to Quentin Tarantino, he said, when I was younger, we actually did a stage play of Reservoir Dogs, and I played your role.
Oh, wow.
And it's really? Because Quentin Tarantino's role gets killed immediately. Whoever cast that play obviously could not tell
that Michael Fassbender was
should have been he should have been the cop guy. I
was going to say, he should have been the man on the inside, which I won't spoil which one it is in case any listeners haven't watched Reservoir Dogs. Basically, right, Reservoir Dogs is the Hateful Eight. It's just half of the length.
Right, but instead of trying to hunt for a bad guy, they're trying to hunt for the good guy. Yeah.
Yeah, in a sense, yeah. Hateful Eight I really, really liked it, but it is like an hour too long. It is too long. But I am looking forward to seeing it again. And Django Unchained is another film that I think is great, but it is way too long. It goes on for about 30 minutes longer than it should. Because what happened was that after Inglourious Bastards, the editor that Tarantino worked on all of his films with passed away. So Django Unchained and The Hateful Eight, he's had like either a new editor or he's edited the films himself. So you can tell that he's just not cutting the material that should be cut. So... But yeah, those are my favourite ones.
Yeah, like my instinct when it said best Tarantino film, my instinct was to go straight for Pulp Fiction, just because the impact that had on cinema. Because you remember, like after that came out, like there was a wave where there were so many other movies that were trying to be Pulp Fiction after that, where they're like, here's all these separate story threads. They're seemingly not connected in any way, but they all intertwine at the end. It's like, no... Pulp Fiction did it. You can't do it.
Yeah, I was
You're
listening
not
to
Tarantino. Yeah.
I was listening to another podcast. I can't remember which one it was, and and one of the questions the person got was, which film do you think is the most influential in terms of film students over the past 20 years? And the person didn't have an answer. They weren't sure. My answer would be Pulp Fiction, because so many film students enjoy watching that, and then they try to emulate and copy it. And whether or not you can write Tarantino style dialogue is really what separates the men from the boys in terms of screenwriting. If you're able to just have conversation sequences and just make it pop.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I think I'd actually agree with you, and I'd pick Inglourious Bastards as the best one.
Ah, interesting.
Even though my instinct was Pulp Fiction, no, I'd go with Inglourious Bastards. I think that's a better film, yeah.
Okay, another question from Abel Diaz. I have no idea if you'll know about this, but I'll ask just on the off chance. He says, what are your thoughts on the upcoming Netflix Watership Down? Have you heard about Watership Down?
No.
It's basically... How do I describe Watership Down to somebody who's not initiated? Watership Down is a children's novel set in the... it was from the 1970s, and it's based around a group of rabbits, and it is messed up. And it got turned into an animated film, which is considered one of the darkest and most depressing animated films ever made for kids, where there's blood, there's death, all these rabbits are killing each other and stuff, and it's basically a cult classic, and it's no longer broadcast on the BBC in the UK because they get way too many complaints about it from parents going, oh, it's an animated film about rabbits, oh my god, there's the blood, like all of this messed up stuff happens, and they get a load of complaints. And the animated film, it's got John Hurt in it, it's got Richard Breers, really good voice cast, and Netflix are remaking it, and they announced the voice cast this past week. Netflix are doing a CG animated miniseries, 4 1-hour episodes, and it's going to have James McAvoy, Nicholas Hoult, John Boyega, Ben Kingsley, Gemma Arterton, Olivia Colman, Anne-Marie Duff, and Freddie Fox in the cast. This is a very prestigious cast.
So I'm taking it's still animated, and they're voicing them, right?
Yeah, it's going to be a CG animated series. Not sure how that will translate.
I would like to see Ben Kingsley in a rabbit suit.
Oh, so would I. Yeah, because I'm just thinking
doing an incredibly sad story. Yeah.
unless everyone else is in the rabbit costumes and Ben Kingsley is just himself, like pretend like he's a man cub pretending to be a rabbit. But yeah, that's happening, and that's going to be coming out in 2018, I think. It's going to be broadcast on the BBC, and also if you're in the UK, you watch it on the BBC. Internationally, you watch it on Netflix. So I'm assuming you'll be watching this on Netflix if you ever do.
Yeah, totally. No, it sounds really good. I'm actually looking forward to it now.
Yeah,
I'll definitely watch that when it comes out.
If you can, try and watch the 1978. I think it's 78 not musical, cartoon. It will mess you up. It'll put hairs on your chest.
I'm writing it down now. What was it called again? Watership Down?
Watership Down.
Watership Down. All right.
So yeah.
So if you don't hear from me next week, you know it's because I got so depressed from watching Watership Down.
You'll be like post-traumatic stress disorder, but for
I'll just be like in a fetal position on the floor, just crying.
God. Crazy rabbits gonna get me. Let's go. I'm just gonna refresh the questions page because they're coming in all the time. Right, let's go for one more for fun. Who would you cast as Captain Marvel?
Ooh,
that's from Brandon Morgan.
Captain Marvel.
I'm going to throw out if they're going for the Carol Danvers one, which I believe they are. I'm going to throw out Charlize Theron.
Oh yeah, she'd be good. Yeah, the Ron. That's the way to go.
The Ron. Oh gosh, but yeah, she's blonde. She can hold herself in action scenes. She fits the physical criteria for being Captain Marvel.
Yeah, definitely. You'd buy her as being tough as well. Yep. No, that'd be a good choice. Yeah, I'd go with Charlize Theron.
I was trying to think of any out-of-the-box casting. So I'm just thinking of blonde action stars, but I'm thinking you can dye your hair now.
Yeah.
I mean, we have the technology. There's also Kamala Khan, who is the current Miss Marvel, and she's like she's a Pakistani American teenager, and she's got her comic series is really, really good. It's like got a Pakistani creative team writing it, and it's all about like people who are trying to fit in and feeling different and stuff, and then she gets these weird shape-shifting powers. It's a really good read. The first volume of the Miss Marvel graphic novel series actually won a load of awards. It's actually been really well regarded. I think for that you'd cast an unknown teenager. I think if you were doing something like that. But for Ms. Marvel, Carol Danvers, I'm going to go for Charlize Theron.
Okay, yeah, I totally support that.
Good. I'm glad we agree.
Well, hats off to the Mr. TARDIS review followers who really got us out of a jam there. Thanks,
yes,
guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So there we go, ladies and gentlemen, another episode of Movie Mania. We want to give a special thank you to our special guest, Couch Tomato from Couch Tomato. Tell us, where can the people find you if they want to find you?
Number one, it's been the pleasure's totally mine. Thanks for having me, guys. But if you want to find me, I have a YouTube channel. If you love movies, I suggest you check it out. I think you'll like it. Also, if you hate movies, surprisingly, I think you'll love it even more. It's www.youtube.com/CouchTomatoFilms. Basically, we compare movies that you love to movies that you hate. Don't believe me? Just watch. Also, check me out on #Cinematic Lives Matter podcast. Name's a little controversial, but we keep it G-rated. We're on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and pretty much everywhere you get your podcast. Look for #Cinematic Lives Matter, and we discuss, once again, movies that you love and hate. The thing is, we basically offer a point of view from myself, who's a movie buff, but we also look at the point of view from an average citizen and how they feel about movies, and answers the questions on why certain movies get greenlit. Last thing, just #Cinematic Lives Matter on iTunes and SoundCloud, and also check out the YouTube channel at www.youtube.com/CouchTomatoFilms. Thanks for having me, guys.
No problem, and there'll be
it's been great having
there'll
you.
be all links and all that in the description, and etc. etc. So thank you for joining us all, and we will see you next week, our Movie Maniacs.